kind of interview, because it's not going to really be an interview. It's going to be more.
Thank God. First of all, geez, you sound like the voiceover guy, James Earl Jones.
Where is he? I don't see him.
Yeah. He's invisible. We can't actually. If Gabe Sapolsky was invisible, it actually brought more money. I'd like to thank Ring of Honor, first of all, for bringing us here to beautiful downtown Newark, New Jersey. Now I know how political prisoners feel.
This is Newark?
This is Newark.
Oh, it was Guantanamo.
We're trapped in this enclosed conclave. You have to go through a gate to get in the parking lot. If you leave the grounds, you turn right, you're in the Newark Airport, an endless maze where you all get lost. If you turn left, you go to New York City, downtown, cross the bridge, you never get back. The pork chop dinner's $26, the cheeseburger's $19 with the room service tax, and you're afraid to leave the grounds. It's like the green zone in Iraq.
I still got to go upstairs and untie the maid. But it's been a nice day here.
Yes, actually.
Pardon my speech. I mean, I'm recovering from throat cancer, as you know, and some of the words sound a little funny. I'm not slow or retarded. I'm just a half a tongue in the back. But
well, don't worry.
That's why they gave us fingers so we can talk.
The more you talk, the less Gabe will talk. Because I've done these before, and if he starts asking you questions, we're going down the wrong road. But Bobby, I gotta say this. I grew up. A lot of people know this. I've talked about it on some of the stuff I've done for Ring of Honor. I was able to see the Indianapolis wrestling show. If I went up in my attic and I tweedled with the UHF antenna just right on Saturday nights, I got WTTV out of Bloomington, and that was one of the first wrestling shows I got to start watching along with the Tennessee show, and I watched you when you worked for Bruiser, and I know you had many lucrative and happy years working for the wonderful and compassionate Bruiser. And Indianapolis and Chicago were both great wrestling towns, especially Chicago. A lot of people don't remember how hot Chicago was in the early 70s, and you were right in the middle of it. I'm surprised you're still living from those fans.
Well, you know, the only time it ever happened in my life, they shot at me in Chicago at the amphitheater. And I'll tell you about that as we go on. But, yeah, Indianapolis was, it wasn't really a great area. It was an area where you started or you finished. No one went there to make money. It was like Kansas City. You're either finishing up or you were starting out.
You come in on a $20,000 Lincoln and leave on a $60,000 Greyhound.
That's a one-way ticket, though.
Yeah.
But no, I lived there, and I was born in Chicago. I was raised in Indianapolis since I was 15. So I got to work some matches, and I was 17 when I started carrying the ring and doing stuff like that. So that's how I got into business. But no, you didn't go there to make money. You went there to either get a break or learn or something. But Indianapolis had a bad TV, Channel 4, but only half the city could get it, the south side. And the north side never got there. It just didn't reach there.
And Saturday at 2 a.m. also is not a prime time slot.
No, most of the bars on Coastal 3 there. So you got a guy watching TV that can't remember what he saw. It's like a promoter. So Indianapolis didn't do that well, but Chicago was starting to roll. It was just after Fred Cole and Buddy Rogers era, and then Bruiser and Gagne and Snyder took over, and they got TV changed around, and boy, it really started taking off. And it was really, that was their biggest town, Chicago. And then Indianapolis got their TV changed around.
And one of the greatest front men of all time, Bob Luce, matchmaker, general manager, matchmaker.
Dan's Auto.
Oh my God. If anybody gets a chance to see the Bob Luce Wrestling Classics that floated around, he did a cable show a number of years ago where the horrible film to tape transfers, you know, with Bob's own commentary, which in its perverse way was entertaining. This guy was the epitome of a wrestling promoter, and Bob Luce was the...
Or he'd be working at a state fair trying to lure you in to see the half-naked women.
Yes.
Yeah. Come on in.
And JoJo the Dog-Faced Boy will be on in 5 minutes.
That was his kid.
And he would do the interviews also with Sam Miniker. A lot of times he'd do them for the stand-ups, especially for Chicago. But Bob Luce, locally in Chicago, was kind of a legend, but he was... you got to tell me something about Bob Luce, because I never got to meet.
He was just like you saw him. He was bizarre. He's not a bad guy. I haven't talked to him for 30 years. I just have no reason to. But he's a nice man, but he's just like that. I mean, this guy makes Huffy nervous. I mean, this guy keeps moving and talking and jumps around. He's just that way. He left his house. His wife was a woman wrestler. He was sharing Lass. And he left the house and he used to take a ride and think about things. He drove to Toledo and back. Really, for no reason, he drove to Toledo from Chicago. It's 300 miles. 600 round trip for an outing. I interstate with traffic.
His commentary would be, wow, in a bloodbath, and there Dick the Bruiser, the Crusher, and wow, fans, I tell you, wow.
The boy's going to be pouring down Halsey Street into the gutter to the mayor's office and this and that.
The blood ran through the streets like wine. But I tell you, in Chicago, it was a juice city. And what I can't understand from watching wrestling as I know it is it's a tribute to the heels, Bockwinkel and Stevens and your self-management and the Blackjacks. Bruiser and Crusher would beat these guys in 3 falls. They'd beat them up for the first fall and pin them. Then they'd beat them up for the second fall, get juice on them, and then the Bruiser and Crusher get disqualified. And then they'd beat them up and pin them in the 3rd fall. And the heels never got any heat in the ring, but the fans were ready to kill them, and the cops were standing facing the fans with their backs to the ring to make sure nobody, like you said.
And there were no cops. Those were anti-train.
All the anti-trains.
Oh, they were like the mall police, you know, no one scared of them. And, you know, we come out to the ring in Chicago, and they put the spotlight on you. Well, now you can't see the people. Now here it comes. So you're ducking and dodging all the way there. I remember my first time in Chicago. I was managing Blackjack Lanza. No, the Assassins. Against, I forget who. And there was this woman, and she'd come down the aisle, and she had a voodoo doll. And she'd shake it at me. And had something else in this hand. She was a huge woman. Okay. Kind of a little bit like Aunt Esther and Moose Choa. So she's coming down the aisle with this doll. So I had enough of her. She would walk behind me and pull my hair all the time. I had enough of this one night. So I said, sit down. And she stood up and dropped me like Tyson. And I rolled under the ring, and I'm holding my nose is bleeding. She's telling me to come out from under the ring. I said, no. Now we're going to come out. But that was Chicago. There was no corrals around the ring or rails or anything. People just, it was wild. Then one thing we had was a Bockwinkel against Vern. Got a simple finish. Nick slams Vern. Referee goes 1, 2. Vern puts his foot over the rope. I throw it back. Referee goes 3. Vern jumps up. He said, I had my foot over. The referee says, continue. But I'm hugging Nick. I'm in the apron. Drop kicks Nick in the back, in the meat club sandwich. I go to the floor. Nick goes back 1, 2, 3. Yeah. As I jumped up, some fans said, I'll get him down. And he rested his hand on the kid's shoulder in front of him and fired down to the ring.
Oh, my God.
And I shot a woman in the chest, 1 in the arm, 2 in the neck, and 1 in the thumb. But he never reached the ring. He got the ringside seats before that. And the article in the paper, it was about 1975. And it said, all the kid said is, all I saw was orange. And the kid was deaf. And the guy would come back, but no one would say, I saw him do it. So he didn't arrest him. But they put police around him to watch him, detectives. But he never did nothing again.
Well, that was the same thing as in Boston when Blackjack Mulligan got stabbed by that guy. The cops, actually, Gorilla Monsoon threw him to the cops, and the cops just...
Like, Monsoon was a referee. And you take the glasses off Monsoon, he can't see nothing. I asked him, I said, what are you yelling at those people for? You can't see him. He said, I hear somebody out there. But he couldn't see. So this guy jumped in the ring, slashed Mulligan, crossed the knee like that, and the Mulligan reached for him. He slashed his forearm, and Monsoon grabbed him and threw him out of the ring. And didn't know the guy had cut him. He saw the fans jumped in. He never saw that. And about a week later, every time Mulligan touched his arm or his knee, green pus would come out. And the guy had taken the knife and soaked it in pig fat and infected it. And that's what happened.
They do that in Puerto Rico also. They piss on stuff too, right? To try to make an infection, you know.
And their children.
Yeah. But a lot of times in those days, the cops were fans and marks in the worst sense of the word, where the cops weren't going to help the heels. You had to go out and make friends with them first.
Always thank them when you come back.
Yes.
Thank you very much, guys. Take everyone's hand. Some of the guys that come back, hey, did you see that guy throw something at me?
Yeah, we saw it. What are you going to do about it?
You're off this flat foot making $12 a week. Yeah. You're not going to watch your back the next time.
The Destroyer, Dick Beyer, I learned from him in Louisiana. He came through Louisiana because he had a kid he trained in, Mark Reagan, and he was going to work with him every night and get the kid over. And even though he had never been there in the past 15 years or previous 15 years or whatever, and he didn't really have any heat, he wasn't on television, he was a heel and he knew what he was doing. He went out to those cops every night. Hey, how you doing? Big Dick Hurts, nice to meet you. Put his arm around him, made friends with him, and then when he went out, they were nice to him.
We were in Cleveland, Lanza and I, in the 60s, for Pedro Martinez. They had steel chairs, they weren't padded. And they fold them, and they sail them like frisbees. And we used to have to pull darts out of some of the guys' backs. They'd throw everything. And we tell the cops, hey, a little protection. They say, the promoter told us not to mess with the people. They paid to get in.
Cleveland was inventive with the kind of foreign objects they would throw. Because when Crockett, I started working for him when we were going to Cleveland, I'm used to ice cups and things like that, but rocks, batteries of shoes. Every time somebody throw a shoe at me, I'd grab it and throw it into the ring so they'd have to leave home, go home with one shoe on. A Vaseline jar, full Vaseline jar one time, right over the head. It was Cleveland one night, they're having a lumberjack match. And I can't remember who it was, Terry Taylor and somebody. And everybody on the cards around the ring except me. I'm in the back. And Dusty wants me to go run in and whack Taylor with the racket and boom, run back out so the heel wins. And
Well, you in your will?
Well, yeah, exactly. I'm back there, so I mean, you couldn't smarten the cops up then. So I went up to the cops. I said, this match is just getting to me. I'm just getting so excited. I may not be able to contain myself in the next 5 to 7 minutes. I may head to that ring. If I do, I sure hope somebody's with me. And sure enough, when I ran, boom, they ran with me. I got back. They got me right to the barricade at the back. And as soon as I stepped through the barricade, some guy standing there with his back to me hit me with an elbow right in the sternum. I walked up, stepped up. That hurt. I turned around. I thought it was a guard. It was a fan. He's taking off this way. So I grabbed him by the edge of the shirt, whacked him with the racket, which is where I figured out, don't use wooden rackets. Use metal ones. When I whacked him, the racket cover started rattling. I broke the frame of the racket and everything. And then here comes Dennis Condrey, grabs him and boom, and off we go. But Cleveland, they would get inventive.
Oh, yeah. Omaha, Nebraska, we had a 6-man tag. It was myself, Buckwinkle, and Stevens, high flyers, and Larry Henderson. And they would throw so much stuff there. It was so bad. I just said, hey, let's go back. So we went back to the dressing room. Joe Ducey came in. He said, hey, the match isn't over. So you go out there and work, Joe.
Yeah.
Now you come out and stand in the corner with me. He said, well, you got to do something. If you go out there and tell them one more thing is thrown, evening is over. They don't get to see the end of the match. Everybody that paid will lose their money.
There you go.
They're the police themselves. Nobody threw anything. And the thing in Detroit, easy to stop. You put a cup in your hand, put his back to the court, and look at the people. They can. If Secret Service don't watch the president, he's not going to jump at the people. You watch the people, right?
Well, you didn't work. I guess you really didn't work for Jim Crockett Promotions much at all, did you?
Never did.
Because those North and South Carolina spot shows, Boone, North Carolina, because I'm carrying a tennis racket, right? It's a college town, a bunch of wise-ass kids. They brought buckets of tennis balls, and we're being pelted with tennis balls. So, and I mean, from, a distance of 80 feet, sidearm those some of the guns real good, to catch you the right way, it'll hurt. So one of the Midnight Express standing on the apron of the ring watching the people while the other one works, and then tag vice versa. But I'm out there on the floor, and finally I said, wait a minute, I'm holding a tennis racket and they're throwing tennis balls. I started drilling those son of a bitches back at those people, and they started throwing them or stopped throwing them pretty quick.
See, but nowadays you have huge lawsuits.
Oh yeah, now you get sued.
I'm in Winnipeg one night, and I'm standing in the apron, and I'm in a match, and a guy shoots me in the arm with an air rifle, pistol, and it hits me right there. And they say you never sell a mark. Don't put over anything he does.
Yeah.
So I'm standing there holding on to this rope as I'm urinating into my boots. This thing hurt so bad and I couldn't move my arm. And Buckwinkle says, something wrong? I said, no, Nick. I always pee my pants on Thursdays around 9:30. You moron. Yeah, so you couldn't go, ow! Then the boom will shoot you all over the place.
They used to get away with stuff. Not only was there a little bit stronger heat, but also everybody wasn't so lawsuit happy. Because in Mid-South working for Watts, I saw Watts one time. The cops would nightstick the fans and they'd stack them up, and their blood like psycho would be running down the wall from where they'd thrown these fans, and they were going to get them later. They'll be there for a while. But Watts, actually, this guy jumped me. Grizzly Smith is pulling him by the hair, and he's got me by the head, and Bob Eaton's got the racket whacking the guy in the head, but he's actually taking the skin off of Grizzly's knuckles. And Watts just grabs the guy and throws him up against the wall, and he's trying to hit him, and the guy keeps ducking. So he grabs his left arm, and he slaps up against the wall, and he says, here, Jake, hold this, Grizz. And Grizz holds it, and he drills him, boom, and he gets on his head, and he's standing on his head. So you want to beat up my wrestlers, huh? And then the cops are standing there watching this. It's in Tulsa, so Watts is God. And then they grabbed the guy, and they pulled him out by the feet, and they dumped him out in the back alley, and we never heard another word. Now there'd be $25 million lawsuits, and the whole city'd be involved. And
There's some guy, I was coming to a ring in Chicago, and some guy hit me in the head with a ball-peen hammer. Right here in the crown.
not a claw hammer,
No.
it's a ball-peen hammer,
So
which everybody knows are more dangerous.
As I brushed my hair back, I see blood, and I said, Jesus. We got the dress, and the cops bring him up, and they hold the guy against the wall. But where the door is. So they said, go ahead, Bobby. So I took off at him. And just as I got there, Dusty Road kicked the guy in the groin. The guy went down, and I hit the wall. Now my head's busted up, my hand's bleeding. I told the cops, I said, get him out of here before he kills me.
we were in Richmond, Virginia one night. It was a four horseman match, and I was standing back watching it. It was on television even. I don't know whether they ended up airing this, but they were beating up Dusty, and one of the fans hit the ring and grabbed and had Arn. I think it was Arn Anderson. Yeah, I believe it. No, it was J.J. Dillon. He had a J.J. because Arn kicked. One of the other point being, as the fan grabs J.J., Arn goes to kick him, but J.J.'s got his hand up there. Arn ends up kicking J.J.'s hand and like breaking all his fingers trying to kick the guy in the head. You do more damage to each other because everybody's going after the guy at the same time.
We had a guy in Heanan, Indiana, when I was Steel Town, you know. I used to pick on people and one guy coming on this, but I wouldn't have to do that. But this guy's about 5 feet 8 and he has no neck. It starts here and goes to here. Got a little cat. Come on, get in there. Cop says, yes, sit down. Shoves the cop off. Now, another cop is up there, shoves him off. And he's got a cop on each arm, and he curls the ring. I feel this.
Oh my God.
Lorenzo says if he gets in here, he's all yours.
You can't pick out one because then, and also then in the court they'll say, well, you challenged him. But
Right.
I was at ringside one time, and I'd not even seen this guy before, and it was a spot show. It wasn't a real hot match. I just happened to look around, and the guy was yelling at me, and I pointed right at him and I said, you sit down. He stood up, and I was like, oh, you're going to come over here? And some bitch he was. He comes right under the rope, and I just had one of my knee surgeries. I had my knee brace on. I was still getting used to it. So I tried to take off and figure, I'm going to catch him at least halfway coming. I tried to take off, and my leg was just there. It was planted. I was like, oh, shit, this ain't working yet. So we ended up just locking up. Now, he's got me. I tried to hit him with the racket. He's got my hands. I've got the racket. He can't let go of me, or I'm going to hit him in the head, but I can't at the same time let go of the racket, or he's got my racket. So we're at a stalemate, and I got no balance, and we're just standing there. It looked like we were dancing.
You never hurt them guys either.
No, you can't hurt him.
No, the guy, I was the first manager they ever used in St. Louis. I only had 3 cops there. So for a year I didn't do nothing, but I had a lot of heat just being there.
Yeah.
So finally they decided to do something one time. So I jump up, I was just standing up one night, and a guy comes and he grabs my shoulder here. There was no rails in it, so I whirl around and I hit the guy with a working punch. And the guy looks at me, and he sits down. I heard him tell the woman next to him, he can't hurt anybody. He just gave me his best shot and never fell him.
You forget sometimes, don't you?
And then I'm thrown on the ring one night in Glow, Indiana. Sherlock throws me out, and some old man gets up with a cane, and he walks up, and just as he goes to kick me in the groin, I grabbed his leg. So I go to kick him in the balls. And I kicked, he turned, and I turned, and we cracked knees. Now we're both going, he's going back to his chair, I'm going back to the ring, like we're both 90 years old. And Len just says, get in here before you kill yourself. But you never heard them. You never heard them guys that you wanted.
And old women and old men are the most dangerous. The big guys are not as dangerous because the old men will cut you, and the old women, what can you do to them? I'm in Lubbock, and just standing there at the Fantastic Midnight Express, and this woman, I don't know what we did, grabs one of the chairs from the front row and raises it over her head, and she's coming at me, and I'm looking at her, and she's got to be 70, and she's barely 5'3", gray blue hair, and she can barely hold this chair up over her head, and she's going to hit me with it. And I'm trying to... Now, I don't want to get hit by the chair. What can I do to this woman? I can't, so I block the chair. When I block the chair, the force of her swing causes her to stumble and fall down. Now I'm standing there with a chair over the body of the corpse of this woman who I haven't even touched, who's fallen down and is having a stroke, and the people are starting to stand up, grab chairs. I'm like, what can I fucking do? I can't win. If I hit the woman, she's dead. She probably killed herself trying to hit me. I didn't touch her. They're still going to kill me. You gotta leave.
I was in Jonesboro, Arkansas in 1965. And that's when the blacks had to sit in the balcony. And they had white and colored drinking fountains and bathrooms. And it wasn't an arena, it was like a place where they held chicken fights. It was, I tell you who ran the town. His name was Dwayne Peel.
Buddy Wayne.
Yeah.
Buddy Peel, yep.
Yeah, him and Herb Welch. And you had to come back after each fall. They give you the finish.
Yeah.
Because they made 3 matches. And they got no concession. That's the truth. So, they always told me, I'm just starting, I'm in business 4 months. They told me, in the rings will work, outside to shoot. You had trouble in there, get in the ring. So, Tommaso was working with Al Costello, hits him with a knee, and Al takes a bump, he hits him in the thigh, and Al's leg swells. And he can't walk. So, he goes back to the dressing room, the babyface side. We go back to ours. And when the guy Mitchell and Joe Tomaso, they were wearing masks as the assistants. I got a tuxedo on, a plastic rose, blonde hair, white sunglasses. It looked like Betty Austin's illegitimate kid. And I'm sitting there and I got to run to shoot.
That's over the heads of anybody under 35, and you know what? We don't care.
And so now we came back up to the third floor, and the finish was Barry was going to take both of them on by himself, and finally they overbombed and they got disqualified. That was it. Simple. Now they both jump in the ring, they're fighting him, and now the people are really getting hot. So the guy's walking down the aisle with a chair. Like that. I said, put that chair down. 20 years old, 4 months in the business. Put that chair down. No police. They're American Legion cops with the old Army helmets. They're about 80 years old.
Because the American Legion got a 1.5%. Yeah.
And they sit there on their chairs. I say, Pop, there's a guy coming with a chair. And he said, No, I'm having no help here. So I rolled in the ring. Now the people think we're all in there together. So now they all come down. So guys said, let's get out of here. So they both jump out of the ring, and I forgot to follow them. I try to get out, and the people are tipping the ring. I'm trying to step out, and I can't. So the guy comes back, and he grabs me, pulls me to the floor, and he puts his arms around me. As we start walking back, those old American Legion cops took their blackjacks out and were stabbing me on the head and on the back, all the way to the dressing room. I worked the whole week from the goose, and I made $40.
But wait a minute, hold on here.
I was on top, though.
Okay, I was going to say, Buddy Wayne, and I love Buddy Wayne. I know him to this day. He's a great storyteller.
He's the worst kid in the world.
Well,
when he was that age.
Ken, when he was that age, oh God, because I ended up managing Ken, Buddy's son. And Buddy looked like Jerry Clower, the country comedian, for our country fans in the audience. His hair, and he had a bout with cancer, and he got through it, and he never lost his hair. The most amazing head of hair I've ever seen. Buddy, at one time, Ken, his son, called him Head, because he was like 5'9" and about 320 or whatever, and he had a big head. But Ken's son in Osceola, Arkansas, one night, I was managing Ken and Danny Davis as the Galaxians. You know, don't even ask me where it came from. And this woman starts, this big corn-fed country woman. She's bigger than me at the time. I was 22 years old, probably about 195, 200 pounds maybe. She's got to be 220, about 6'2". She just gets up. She starts chasing me around the ring. The only thing I can do is run and roll in the ring like they told me, right? But she's faster than I am. So as I go to roll in the ring, she catches my feet. Now Ken grabs my hands. Now they're playing tug of war with me, and you know those Tennessee rings, the edge of the apron there's no holding. They're raking me across this sharp edge of the ring, and Ken's pulling me in, and then she'll pull me back out, and Ken ain't much stronger, if any, than she is. So I'm going in and out, and I'm losing all this skin, and finally I said, one of you let go, because I need some relief. They about stretched me into a fucking rubber band.
You're 6'5" now.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I stood up, you know. But I used to tell Buddy when he'd promote towns, I got him hot one time because his towns were doomed to failure sometimes because he had the B show and they didn't get the top talent. If I would have been on it if he had top talent. And I told him, I said, Buddy, I said, your towns are the best kept secret in the business. I could enter the Federal Witness Protection Program and be in your main event and still be safe. He got hot.
I got a good friend, Bill Howard. You know Bill Howard?
Yes.
And in Atlanta, he worked the same towns every week. Monday was Augusta, Tuesday was Macon, Wednesday was Columbus, Thursday was either Rome or Athens, Friday was Atlanta, Saturday was TV in the morning, then Columbus, and Carrollton. Sunday was Marietta, and start over again.
Yep.
But they didn't book all the boys all the time. So everybody asked Bill Howard what's his favorite town. He says, Marietta. It's only 20 miles away, but it takes me 6 weeks to get there. No one knew what that meant, right?
I always thought if guys changed their name to many others, they'd get a lot more bookings. Because many others on every wrestling card in history. Right? So-and-so versus so-and-so, so-and-so versus so-and-so, plus many others.
Remember Rick McGraw?
Yes, Quick Raw.
He wanted to change his name to Rick Boring. He said, then the people that promoted it, here's the name, boring. He said they think I was getting older.
He was partners with Troy Graham. Jimmy Hart put him together in Memphis as the New York Dolls. And they were the first, when the Fabulous Ones, Stan Lane and Steve Kerr got together, they were the first program they had because they were wearing the top hats and tails and blah, blah, blah. But Rick was always different, God bless him, he's dead now. But when he worked the Pensacola territory, he never even got a place to live, right? He just check in on the beach, or just not check in, but he just live on the beach and then go to the town. And that's a lot of the guys, the Fullers always ran short trip territories. If you worked at Knoxville some, did you? Out of the Atlanta office, you never did?
Out of the Atlanta office,
But when
In
the
79, no. We just
Okay.
were Georgia.
when the Fullers, they ran Knoxville, they ran a Continental Southeastern promotion in Alabama. The theory was if you stay in Lake on the boat until 5:30 and then come in flip-flops, get dressed, as long as you made it to the ring, but by the time your bell rang, you were okay,
Sure.
and then right back out and right back to the beach.
Yeah, it's a good little territory, too.
Yeah.
Like John Madden, when he had Stabler as his quarterback, you know the trouble he got into. He said, what was your team rules? He said, I'm just glad to see him on Sunday. As long as someone showed up.
Yeah.
That was the only rule I had, show up.
Well, that's an old rule in the wrestling business. If you're going to be late, be real late. Get there when the bell is ringing for your match, because then they're not mad. They're just
We
glad
got
to see it.
we got to town late one night, Von Raschke and I. It was Bruiser Town. So I said, well, we'll tell him a train came by. Now, tell me how to flat tire. We didn't know what to say. We got there, we walked in, and Bruiser said, how come you're late? Raschke said, what late? Done.
What can you say? What can you say?
That was it, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about now when you were in Indianapolis, when you were managing at one time. Von Raschke and Jimmy Valiant were partners, right? Before the invention of Luscious Johnny.
That was my invention.
Okay.
I'll tell you how it happened. I was managing Valiant, and I don't like the man at all.
I've heard there's heat.
He just uses people, and Johnny's just as bad. And my mother was in the hospital with a heart attack. I come to the hospital, and Johnny's there to see my mom. What a nice guy. He wasn't there to see my mom. He knew I was coming there. He needed a ride.
He was there to get a ride.
Yeah, that's just where the opera is. I had no time for any of them. But I was working for the Bearman up in Canada, and I saw this kid, John O'Sullivan. He had long hair, looked like Jimmy. He had the tights, kind of had the same look. So I went back and told Bruiser, I said, I got a guy for you. This got to be perfect for the Valiants. I figured that way I wouldn't have to manage him anymore. I could go to Minneapolis, and he had his own tag team. So Bruiser liked it, but he kept me there another year. And finally, I just gave my notice and went to work for Vern up there, because there was no money there.
Well, I remember Von Raschke and Jimmy Valiant as a tag team. That was such a strange combination. But you worked the Chicago Comiskey Park show, one of them, not the only one, but one of them. It was Bruiser and Bobo Brazil against you and the Sheik.
Yeah.
How the hell did you end up getting stuck in that spot where, because you had to do most of the work and the bumping and the running for that team?
No, it was easy, because, first of all, to me, the Sheik was the greatest heel ever in the business. Here's a man
No doubt about
Here's a
it.
man that drew money for 40 years and never did an interview.
Exactly. Never
If he'd have
spoke
taken an arm drag or a bumps or a backdrap, he'd have been like any other guy would have tripped. But he was first hardcore. He was first with screwdrivers and the fire and everything. And you never knew what he was going to do. He drew money.
and people believed it too.
Yes, he scared people. And I met him when I was 17 years old. I used to watch his car. He'd give me $5 to watch his car. That was a lot of money when I was 17. I was 61. When I was making
I don't pay
wrestling.
$5 for the guy to wash my car now.
No, watch it, not wash it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, after my
Well, watch it. Fuck you. You're on your own.
If you know what mess with, I don't know what I do with somebody. I button this something to it. I shoot the horn. What's I going to do? I'm 17 years old. I'm a coward. Toot, Sheik! And I asked him, I said, what do you want to do in the match? He says, you stay with Bruiser, I stay with Bobo. It's okay. That was it. So at the beginning of the match,
I've seen the film of the match, and you got run around the ring. You got your ass bumped off, and she could come in, stick somebody with a pencil, and then run.
right. But at the beginning of the match, I wanted to borrow Bruiser's band drum. He was going to be the last one out to the ring, right?
Yeah.
So when I saw him coming, I jumped out of the ring and ran to center field. So we told the cops to go and get me, but they couldn't catch me. So I was running around. I said, don't catch me. He don't want you to catch me. So they were working with me, but he wanted them to catch me. And I was so blown up. But that was fun because to be there in Comiskey Park with the Sheik and Bobo, who I really admired, was a great guy. And there were three guys in the match I liked: Sheik, Bobo, and me.
Yeah. What about the referee? Hey.
It was the Illinois referee, and they were hard. They were commission guys.
Oh, a lot of the commissions would treat it like a shoot. I mean, New York State, even in the 80s, was that way. You always had to have commission referees instead of the regular guys that worked with you, and they didn't know.
It was political.
Come here from Sikkim. Yeah, they were just there to get. I'd rather they got paid and then just sat there and did nothing and let the good referees referee the match.
First of all, commission has nothing to do with running a wrestling show. Commission is there, so the state that they're in gets their tax money.
Right.
That's all. They can stop a show, not from wrestling. The only way they can stop it is they can call the state police and they'll confiscate your box office. So that's why they put up with them. But they can still run the show. They can't stop that, but they'll take your box office.
The athletic commissions predominantly, and I'd say there's probably several well-meaning commissioners, but predominantly athletic commissions were to tax wrestling so that they could regulate boxing. Because they were more boxing fans than wrestling fans. A lot of them liked wrestling, but they didn't do anything really to help, especially in the Midwest and the North. They didn't do anything to help the business. They'd take your 5% or 7% or whatever it was, and make everybody get licensed and check your blood pressure. Okay, if you got blood pressure, a pulse, and you got breath, they'll hold a mirror up in your face.
I had the same guy every week.
Yeah.
144 over 90. Everybody was 144 over 90. I don't give a guy was 800 pounds or a midget. 144 over 90. As soon as he was done with the last guy, hey doc, the guy just got his ear ripped off. No doctor, he's gone.
Yeah.
They
take the blood pressure and they're gone.
Yeah, but there was a lot of corruption there.
Now, with Sheik also, you were on the Bruiser side. You weren't on Bruiser side, but you were on the Bruiser side of the promotional war in Detroit until they made up, right?
Yeah.
And that they were doing big business at the Olympia and at Cobo.
No, we weren't doing good business.
Really? I thought both of them for a while were doing well.
No, we
Cobo was doing great.
Well, yeah, he had everybody from the NWA in there.
Yeah.
And the Olympia was a bigger place. And it was in a bad neighborhood. But
well, now, when you say you were doing bad, how many people for a show?
Oh, we were doing like maybe 20 grand.
Well, okay.
Dollars.
20 grand. Let's say that's in those prices. That's 4,000 people.
Yeah, in a building that holds 18,000.
Bad. 3 or 4,000 people. Now you can't do it when you run a town twice a year.
No, but a major town like that on the TV we were on, CKLW, you should have been selling the place out.
And Sheik was doing.
He was selling out Cobo.
He was
doing
doing
about 10 or
10,000,
11,000 people.
But there were 40 people on the card. There was 14 matches. Terry Funk and Dory Funk Jr. were in the second match against Sheik and the.
Yeah, we all went for 3 minutes. So.
Yeah, it's just in and out, just blowing out of the water.
He was trying to get from the Olympia to the hotel, then the matches were.
if you took the gate from the Cobo, sold out, and divided it up amongst every big name on that card, 40 names, everybody was probably getting $100. But he ended up winning the war.
Do you know why there was that war?
What started it?
I'll tell you what happened. Bruiser worked in a gimmick with Alex Karras.
Okay.
And he was supposed to get in a fight with Alex in the bar, and they had a cop set up to arrest him. Bruiser didn't want to do the angle. Karras didn't like wrestling. He wanted to do it because of Detroit.
Right.
And Bruiser got there, it was his day off, and Barnett was the promoter. And the guy behind the bar said, whatever you do when you're in a fight, don't break the TV. That's Alex's favorite. So now Alex don't show up. Bruiser's mad. So Bruiser takes a pool cue and runs it through the TV. So now the cops come, and they call the real cops. And they come, they beat the hell out of him, handcuff him, and took him to jail. And during the fight, I guess Dick broke a cop's arm and hurt one's back. And Barnett never stuck up for him in those lawsuits. And then Barnett turned around and he sold the territory to the Sheik. You know how much he sold it to him for?
Or 20 grand?
50 grand.
50.
And Barnett told me the Sheik paid him $1,000 a week for a year.
Because Bruiser never paid Barnett for Indianapolis, but Sheik paid Barnett for Detroit, right?
Right, and Indianapolis was part of Detroit. But Bruiser had the TV in Detroit. Because after they dropped the seat, when Barnett and Doyle left, Sheik had, look at the towns he had. It's Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, Detroit, all the Michigan towns, all the Ohio towns, Huntington, West Virginia, Louisville, and Indianapolis. And so Bruiser, because Bruiser was from there, got his TV in Indy, and he was more powerful in Indy than he would have.
When Barnett left to run Australia and Johnny Doyle, then it just, everything kind of splintered because Sheik had more power in Detroit, Bruiser had more power in Indianapolis. And Bruiser had left, remember Louisville, I heard this story from actually people that were there at the time. Bruiser had left Louisville and Evansville sitting for like 7 years.
He used to get a booking fee from Jared.
Well, yeah, but the way it happened is when Jared expanded, actually Christine got the TVs up there. Jared was booking that in for Nick at the time, but when they opened up Louisville and Evansville, they didn't pay Bruiser a booking fee at first, and Bruiser and Snyder went down and personally spoke to him one night in Evansville, and from then on they got 5% for like years.
Yeah. Well, see, and with Detroit, that's what Bruiser was mad about. Jim Barnett sold the territory to Sheik and not him. And he owed him for all the oil bills and everything. So that Bruiser said, I'm just going to go get Detroit. It was nothing personal with him and Sheik. He just wanted Detroit.
And they made up, and they did real good business
Yeah.
in both places later on when they had the cage matches.
And then I turned babyface one time
I remember that.
against the Sheik in Indianapolis. We had the second show at Market Square Arena. And Bruiser gave me $600. And he gave the Sheik $2,000. That's when I quit and said, I'm going to Minneapolis.
Yeah.
He said, go ahead if you think you can.
But I remember that. I remember the TV leading up to that too. And I remember also at the time, gosh, it was Sheik had just come in. I think it might have been well, whatever. But anyway, you were doing the thing where it was going to be Miniker and Bruiser against you, and was it Sheik? Was your partner there?
Or Ladd, Ernie Ladd or Sheik, I forget.
But it was right at the end of your run there. That's
Yeah.
that's where I stole, appropriated, confiscated, or otherwise researched the famous phone book tear. I did it on Atlanta TV 10 years later. When you came out and said, I'm going to rip this phone book in half. And yeah, 3 pages. There we go. Yeah. And you tried to break the brick to show, because Miniker was a karate expert.
You know how he used to bake that brick? He put it in the oven and bake it. Thing was brittle, like old teeth. You hit it like that, it'd crumble.
And you'd hit it, and you'd sell your hand, and you'd try to tear the phone book, and it wouldn't work, and all that stuff. I loved it. And then you had the judo jacket match, which I was there for live. That was actually either the first or second Indianapolis show I saw when I was like 14.
And I had my hand wrapped. And I bought some ether. And the doctor was my buddy I started in the business. His name was Dr. Carl K. Faven. And the other doctor I had there was Dr. S.T. Bernard, St. Bernard. He had a big tongue. So that's the names I gave him. So he had a doctor's bag. All he had in there was a can opener and a bottle of beer and ether. So I got the ether and I poured it over my hand, and it was gauze. And then people would smell all over the place. And then I put it on Sam's face, and Sam went out. And that was the ether match.
I became the Ether Bunny about 10 years later. We used the ether, and it's so corny, it's so ridiculous at this point, and that wasn't even real doctor's ether now, because I don't think they'll even let you use that.
No, I don't
anymore.
think it was ether either.
But engine starting fluid, in the spray can has an ether base, and you can smell the ether smell. So I'd go out and get the engine starting fluid at Pep Boys, Auto Center, or whatever, and tape it up like it was some secret concoction, and I'd spray it on the rag. People would come. I would have to use that can to hit the fans, because as silly as it was, the idea of putting ether on a baby face got them. They would come after you. And one night we sprayed it, and I put it on, and I was always careful when I'd spray it on the towel. I didn't want to kill anybody. That shit would really mess you up. As I threw the can down, I would fold the dry part of the towel that I had in my hand over the wet part. Well, one night in Jackson, Mississippi with Tommy Rogers, I got a little over anxious because the top had fallen off the sprayer or whatever. I had to get it, so I sprayed the towel, and I folded the wrong part, put it right over it. And now they've been going 20 minutes, and he's sucking wind. All of a sudden, he's sucking his engine starting fluid down his throat. And he didn't, I don't know if he really went out, but he was puking, and he was foaming. Oh, God, it looked terrible. We win the match, we get in the back, they bring him out. And he's got to get some fresh air. It's middle of summertime, Jackson, Mississippi, not air conditioned, right? So they bring him, they lay him out by the back door, and all the fans are standing around in the back watching, and he's actually heaving. He's puking. He's got foam coming out, and we're trying to get out of there before we have any trouble. So we've got our bags, and we walk over him and step over him and run away the car, and then make the fans hot. Here they come, and they start throwing shit, rocks at the car and everything. You no good bastard. You put the guy with ether and then step over his body.
Well, I used to spray the back end, and then put it this way.
Well, see, I wasn't smart enough to, well, actually, I guess I was a smart one, because I was doing it instead of...
Sam was 80, he died on it. But, yeah, the things you do it was really funny. I remember one night, I had the Nux, right? Bar of soap taped. And...
If it wasn't for hotel room soap, a heel could never win a match.
No. And I had to throw it to Lance in the ring one night, and Wahoo chased him in the floor. So I threw it. Willie Mays. And I saw Lance go. And the guy in the front row goes, now what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I said, don't you dare show that to the referee. That's the first thing the moron did. He gave it to the ref. Thank God.
Brilliant.
Or it said Ivory.
Yeah. When I first started the business, I was supposed to throw a chain in a cage match to one of my assassins were Roger Smith and Donnie Bass, because Guy Mitchell and Tommaso weren't available. And so Roger was the fabulous ones. And Roger told me, now, when you throw me the chain, throw it way up over the top of the cage like that so everybody sees it and it'll come right in my hands, right? So sure enough, boom, 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 and he's calling for it, and I throw it way up like that. It's in Nashville, Tennessee, and he looks up like that, and all of a sudden you hear clink, clink, the ring lights. It hung right on the ring lights, and it's hanging there dangling. He's no way he can get it. As he's looking up, Kern just gives him a flipper forearm, and a chin knocks him out the fence. So that's great.
Oh yeah, people, they see, and then you go back to dressing, and guys say, boy, that finish is screwed up. They don't know it.
And they weren't in on
They don't
me.
know the finish.
No,
No,
yeah.
so they don't know if it's screwed up. Only we do. And
You know,
it's important.
well, I tell the guys in OVW, I say the way that the people know when you screwed something up is when they see this look on your face. Then they know something's messed up. If you don't go, then they don't know.
Right.
It could have been anything.
I'm going to say to you, because I never have gotten a chance to, this is my favorite guy in the business for a manager. I mean it. He looks like a guy that would manage it. I mean, would you let Fuji manage you?
Actually,
Would you let Albano put rubber bands in his face?
I would want a manager with command of the English language.
Would you let Blassie, an 80-year-old guy in a suit dressed up like a nickel? Would you let Select? Would you let Jimmy Hart? You can't see his eyes. He looks like a barber outside of a barber shop. But you look like a manager. And I tried to work like wrestle like a manager and manage like a wrestler. But you always had the suit and tie, and you get the glasses, and you had a tennis racket, and you never missed a word on an interview. I thumper. I can talk too fast, and I lose traction time. But this man never did. A tremendous command of the language. You knew where you were coming from at the start of an interview, towards the end. If the hardest guy to do an interview with, and you did, was David Crockett.
Oh, Jesus.
And you would get around him and shut him up. And I mean it, my friend.
Thank you very much.
I always liked your work. I really did.
Well, I liked your work so much, I stole a great deal of it. So
I didn't invent the hammerlock. I will use it.
but that's the thing is, I just figured out I like words, so I figured out 4 or 5 different ways to say the same thing. So it wasn't that I was saying a lot of good stuff, it was just I was saying the same thing over and over, but it sounded different. But with you as well as a manager, the one thing I was not able to do, I got my ass kicked pretty well because they just knocked me down and I fall down. That's pretty simple, but you were able to work better than the guys that you managed. And that saved a lot of questionable matches in a lot of instances.
It was my gimmick. Had I been a worker, I couldn't stay in territories that long.
Exactly.
This way, I made main event money, and I could stay there. I stayed in Minneapolis 13 years. And they feed me guys.
Exactly.
And that was it. But if I was a worker, I would have made good money for a year or two, then I had to go someplace. Excuse me. And I didn't want to pull my mother and grandmother around the country because I was taking care of them.
Well, I mean, you managed Ray Stevens and you managed Nick Bockwinkel, who were tremendous talents.
Andre.
But at the same time, you managed some people that you had to save in a lot of matches. I don't mean save in terms of physically, but I mean save in terms of entertainment value.
Yeah.
Entertainment value.
Well, and that's what I never understood about the way they treat us. Are you managing or working?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Same thing.
The only reason you're a wrestler is because that's your role you play. The referee, a wrestler, a manager has the same job as everybody. I probably drew more money than a lot of guys on the card. People pay to see me get bloody and bumped around. But they said because you weren't working, you weren't in the ring working.
Yeah.
But, I mean, bring me in at the end for 5 minutes and have me drop a quart.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but that was a way of not having to pay.
Well, and that's something also is and I know I'm hearing whispering from over there, so we're probably going to have to take a break for tape, but I got to say 2 things. One real quick is that a lot of times they see wrestlers up and down the card. The fans see the wrestlers take drop kicks and backdrops and hip tosses, and they get to see them get punched in the face and everything. So that by the time the main event comes, you've pretty well seen a lot of wrestlers take a lot of bumps and getting beat up. But when the manager, who has a lot of heat, finally gets his comeuppance from the babyface, that's one of the highlights of the night, and that's what sometimes they come and pay to see.
You're right.
I don't know whether if I hadn't been dressed in a dress or whatever for Bill Watts, maybe the last Stampede might not have done quite so well. I don't know, because they had that carrot at the end of the stick.
Sure.
And I'll say one more thing before they got to shut the tape off. the first time I ever heard the story that you told in your book was from Jerry Lawler, because he told me the story. He said, when you finally went to smarten your mother up,
Oh, yeah.
smart her up to the business, she said, Mom, the business, however you said, was at work. And she said, well, of course I knew that. You think I'd think
I said, how do you know that?
Yeah.
She says, nobody with the right mind will let you manage them.
Exactly. So that right there says it all. We're back. They don't even know we left. I went down the hall with this microphone still attached to my tie, and then one of the maids said, I didn't know we were still shooting those kind of videos here in this hotel. Who was it that they had a wireless microphone on a live broadcast, this was like 15 years ago or whatever, and they didn't realize it was still on, and they were still wearing it, and they went and they piss.
Oakland.
That's right, that really was Gene Oakland.
No, it was me. Oakland is another story I can't tell.
Oh, okay.
But it was me. I was at WWF, and Vince and his wife Linda had some guests there in the studio. So I told Larry Rosen, I said, leave my mic on. So I went in the bathroom, I flushed it, and you could hear it. I said, oh, come on, big fella, come on. Okay, come on. Back in the holster. Let's go. I went back in the studio, and Vince did it like this. And he said, turn your mic off. Did I have that on?
I was watching tonight, and I try not to admit this, but I used to have occasion to sometimes watch WCW programming. I'll admit it, I'm a closet WCW watcher. Didn't like a lot of it, but watched it. But the night with Pillman, I know you didn't mean to, and he had the bad neck, but it was, to me, that was great live television, because it didn't hurt you a bit as far as your image, but it got Pillman over as a nut.
What happened was, see, Monsoon taught me, when you're doing color or play-by-play or anything, you don't call what's going on in the ring. You call what's on the monitor. Because then if you're shooting something, you're not calling.
Yeah.
So I'm watching the monitor, and they both spell out of the ring. They were shooting the other two. I don't see Pillman coming around. And I had a broken neck. I had my neck up. I broke my neck in '83 in Japan. I didn't have it operated on until 94 or 95, I think, because I didn't have insurance. But I did at Turner. So everybody knows this. I got a bad neck. So he came behind me, and I didn't see him. I'm watching the monitor. He pulled my coat down on my shoulders. And I said, what the F? And I threw my headset down, and I saw it was Pillman. And I started to walk out of there, and then I started working. And I got mad and came back. And then they came up to me afterwards. I came up to them and told them I'm sorry. They didn't even know it. They were so done here. I told Bishop, you said that? I wasn't listening. They didn't even know it. I mean, how dumb they were? We're doing Nitro one night, and they bring over the TV. Eric Bischoff tells the audience that the Raw show this week is taped, and Mick Foley wins the belt.
Yes.
In his genius mind, thinking the people will stay with us, he just told them what to watch.
Yeah. You're going to see a world championship change hands on the other station, folks. You don't want to see that.
But this is live. Yeah. We got Nitro Girls and Disco Inferno. Boom, boom. So we bring in this big monitor. Eric wants to watch the Raw show, right? So I'm sitting there, and I'm doing color. And I'm watching their monitor. I'm calling Owen Hart's match. And I don't think anybody ever knew it. Then I realized, what's on? I said, what am I doing? And then I realized I'm watching the wrong monitor. They both things. They said,
Well, now I know why Bischoff was such a good announcer, because he was watching the wrong program. Instead of the one he was supposed to be calling, he's trying to watch the other guys.
oh, and they had this one girl in the production car. She'd bring out the format. Maybe after the second match. And I swear to you, sometimes they weren't ready, and she would put the staple. Now, if you're going to have a format, 3 pieces of paper, where do you put the staple? Upper left hand. She'd put it upper right hand or lower right hand. You couldn't. She was just so stupid. She was the dumbest woman I'd ever seen. She weighed about 400 pounds in a hoof. And she was a diabetic. So she would inject her carcass with a needle in the morning through her jeans at the airport. She'd go right through, bang, bang, and then she'd lay on the floor and eat those potatoes like nuggets.
Oh, tater tots.
Tater tots on the floor. And she's laying there one day, on her side with his needle sticking out of her keister, eating potato chips. And there's some old man sitting on the bench next to me waiting to board the plane. And he looks at that. I said, you should have been here earlier. I said, usually after they stun him with that, they cut the tusk right off. But that's it. That's what kind of people you were working with.
I bet she looked natural in cowhide.
Oh.
We never worked the same place. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about it, except for, but not at the same time, except for that one brief period. And I was thinking about it on the way up here. Not only did we never work in the same place at the same time, except for when I started with Vince and I did my first Raw, you were the color man, and we got to do that one interview and a couple of things, and you were gone, and I was there, and you went to the place that I had been. But we actually didn't even work for a lot of the same promoters, because I never worked for Vern, and I never got to work for Bruiser. You did. You never worked for Crockett. I did. Did you ever work for Fritz?
Yes.
I didn't remember that.
But I just went in for 2 weeks as a wrestler, just to hang around with Lenz and Mulligan and Patera.
There you go.
To go down for a week and drink. I remember Nick and I bought a condo in Florida. So after about a year, he says, it has to be painted. He's married. I wasn't married at the time. He said, you want to get on painted? I said, yeah, I'll get on painted. So Ray Stevens said, I'm going to Amarillo. He said, why don't you come to Amarillo? We'll go hunting. I don't hunt. I had more fun with Ray drinking than I would painting the wall. So I went to Texas with Ray. So about 2 days later, Bachman calls my mother. He says, can I speak to the brain? She said, you're speaking to him. If you want to talk to the asshole, he's in Texas. So I went down to Texas to work for the Funk for a couple of weeks, and I wanted to work for Fritz. But that's how I just went down.
Did you ever work for Bill Watts?
No.
It's almost like we could have avoided each other any better if we had planned it that way.
The reason I didn't, I worked for Paul in Houston.
Yeah, exactly.
But the reason I didn't work for Watts or Crockett was because I don't want to work every day. And I didn't want to work every day.
Yeah.
New York, you had to, but then you'd have a week or two. Where you'd work 10 days, off 3, I'm back 4, off 3. But some of those days I was in Baltimore doing prime time and stuff. So, but Vern, you don't work every day in Minneapolis, and you didn't work every day in Indianapolis. They didn't have the time. You do TV interviews, you do 4 markets.
Well, Nick Bockwinkel, when he was coming down to Memphis to work with Lawler, when he was AWS champion, I was just starting the business in '82 when he was. You'd come down with him when they first started acknowledging the title in '78, '79, and then I don't think he came back for a year or two, and then he started coming back, and he had that run in '82, '83. So I was lucky enough to be able to give him a ride a few times where he'd be coming in as a courtesy, and I lived in Louisville, so instead of him having to go back to Nashville with all the other guys, he'd stay over, and we went to Kingfish or whatever, and then take him to Evansville. The same thing for Patera, Jesse Ventura. So I'm like sitting there going, so tell me so-and-so, and I would just drive and listen to stories. But Nick said, oh yeah, for Vern you work 17, 18 times a month. And I'm thinking, like, we got 3 days off a month, and I thought that was, normal. And I'm going, holy mackerel.
But you'd work about 20 times a month, and you most of the places you flew.
And it was a big spread out territory.
Yeah,
so
well, you had San Francisco, Salt Lake, Nebraska, Minneapolis. You have Winnipeg, 500 miles into Canada. Then you'd have Wisconsin, Illinois, and then I would go out to St. Louis with Olanza sometimes. I managed Alfred Hayes there and Harley there. Then I go to Houston with Nick. But no, we were never in the same territory together.
Yeah. Well, at least that way we got a chance to get this one more payoff from these suckers for doing this.
One more?
Oh, gosh.
I guess I got my notice, huh? No, this is a heck of an organization. They're going to do good. They are. They're going to do good.
As soon as
they found something for me to do on the weekend.
Yeah. They just get rid of that Sapolsky character. Do me a favor, tell me, I never got a chance to spend a lot of time around Ray Stevens. I had one time where he came out to Las Vegas with Wally Carbo for that ladies group that I was doing color for, which was a reason for Ray to get paid off as an agent.
No, he came out with Wally for one reason. That was to dust Wally for Prince.
Well, yeah. But we got diverted our flight back to Charlotte because he was living with Wahoo at the time. We were both living in Charlotte. And we got diverted to Atlanta, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and we said, it's weather, it's just rain. Instead of sitting here in Atlanta all night, let's get a car, let's go to Charlotte. Okay, so I got to ride with Ray Stevens 4 hours, Atlanta to Charlotte. He told me more funny stories about when he was partners with Don Fargo in the 50s in San Francisco, Roy Sheridan, etc. Tell me some more Ray Stevens stuff.
His first wife was a woman wrestler.
Therese Tice, right?
Yeah, and she kind of looks a little bit like Luthez and Chief Strongbow. Tough woman. And she's about 10, 15 years older than Ray. And I said, aren't you ever scared of her? He says, I have her on her knees twice a week begging. I said, did you hit her? He said, no, she's telling me to come out from under the bed and fight like a man. He said, I'm out for a loaf of bread once. I was gone 2 weeks. I said, what do you say when you get home? She said, where's the bread? But that's how Ray was. He didn't care about anything.
He lived 6 lives, went through 6 fortunes, right?
A week.
Yeah.
His first payoff at the Cow Palace, when Shire took over, they sold out. It was enormous. First sellout ever. Ray took his pay, $3 grand, I think it was.
1961 or something, right?
He gave it to all the boys underneath on the card.
He was a tremendous guy, and the best worker in the business in the 60s.
Him and Patterson.
Because before it was the Shawn Michaels bump, it was the Ric Flair bump. Before it was the Ric Flair bump, it was the Ray Stevens bump. And he and Patterson, you had San Francisco was a big city, and you had two of the greatest workers in the business having that program. But then even after the motorcycle wreck, and he broke his leg, and he'd been in the business 20 years, and still in the AWA, when you were managing him, he was still, without hardly trying, ahead of most everybody else.
And he's telling me, people be quiet. He get the guy down, he's someone shift gears. He started choking him. I was sitting, had hair start flying. And he started choking, his eyes would get wilder, and the people start coming up, and he had it. He had it.
He was like Murdoch. He was so natural.
Murdoch was one of the best workers this business ever had, but he wanted to be Carl Cox.
Yeah, there you go.
And he was one of the best hands ever. He was a tremendous worker. He should have been world champion. I asked Pat O'Connor, how come he didn't ever give Stevens the belt? He said, well, he didn't have the body for it. I said, well, you and Kaninsky were great. Right? But, no, it was, that belt was a political thing, you know how that so.
Well, explain to me the first thing in wrestling that isn't political, really, when you think about it.
The Fed girl drive you to the airport. She's just there.
Totally bipartisan. With Stevens and Bockwinkel, they were such different personalities.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously they didn't have to live together 24 hours a day, but they were tag team partners.
Oh, but
Whose way? What?
Nick made sure Ray was there. But then Ray paid no attention to him. Rick was like Captain Chipmunk. He was like a head of a bunch of Boy Scout teams. In the airport, everybody was fine. I don't know why Nick just wanted to be Captain Chipmunk. So, and Nick is very intelligent. He thinks. And he is. He's smarter than me. And he uses big words, but no one knows what they mean. So we're writing...
You can't get away with the interpretation.
Yeah, we're writing accommodation. So he's talking about paradox. He said, you know what a paradox is? I said, yes, we put 2 boats. Stephen says, no, 2 long dogs. I said, no, it's 2 brain surgeons. So we drive about another 50 miles. Nick says, have you guys been reading about the egg deficit they're having in Guam? Stephen turns around and says, hey, asshole, we're still working on paradox.
I was doing the OVW TV show a couple months ago, and I like to mess with Dean Hill. He's a guy that does color with me. He was a former local police officer, and he was a member of the SWAT team. Tough son of a gun. I don't let him get in any angles because everybody in town knows he could stretch anybody or beat anybody up. He'd go into SWAT mode, right? So he stays over there. But we come back from a VTR of something or other, and I said, Dean, frankly, the dichotomy of the conundrum that we're currently perplexed with leaves me grasping for similes. And he just went, and I said, we'll be right back. He said, what the hell did you just say? I said, actually, nobody knows what I just said, and I'm not really sure I know, but I got a little bit better feeling for it than they do, so they just went about there. I just wanted to see if I could make you smile.
Oh, yeah, we would do interviews sometimes, and Nick would start just talking, and Ray would stop and say, the hell are you talking about? Is this a match we're having? And then we read it. You know, it was good that way. We didn't understand. I'm from Beverly Hills, right? Yeah, it's easy, right? I don't understand it. We're doing good.
Now, you're from Beverly Hills, but you never worked in Los Angeles territory, did you?
I'm not from Beverly Hills. I'm from.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I never worked out with territory.
And it was one of the first ones that closed down anyway.
Yeah, but it was a territory. It was a long ways away.
Yeah.
And Roy Shires wanted me to be booker out in San Francisco one time. But Roy did a lot of yelling, and I didn't want to move that far, and I had my mother to take care of all those years. And then after that, I got married and had a baby right away. So I didn't want to travel. I wasn't.
Well, and really, San Francisco was one of those places also where it wasn't really a territory as much as it was the city with spot shows, and you could
That's
live
right.
a short trip territory where you could make some good money, but
Right.
not like Dallas. When I worked, for Fritz, we just come off working for Watts, where we had a big year as one that kind of made us, and we go to work for World Class and Von Erichs, and if you didn't work with the Von Erichs, you weren't figured into the top pay spots. So we looked at kind of, okay, we're averaging $1,000 a week, but we only work 4 or 5 times, and most of the trips are short, and we're living in Dallas, Texas, and the weather is good. So, but after about 6 months of a paid vacation, you want to get out there and actually get figured in again so you
Yeah.
can accomplish something.
Yeah, a lot of guys they say great territory, a lot of days off. The guys don't want days off because the guys get a day off, they figure they're not going to be figured in.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. But some places, I just didn't want to work every day. San Francisco,
Well, you
wouldn't work every day, but I didn't want to go that far.
With Minneapolis, you had your cake and you ate it too because they didn't work a full schedule, but you were still figured in and you could accomplish something.
Right, and I lived in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And a lot of shots I finished up in Chicago. It was 200 miles, and I'd leave my car at the airport or something. And it wasn't bad. Then I moved to Minneapolis, and I lived there for a few years. But it was good. It was just so damn cold.
See, now I like days off. I like more days off than days on now. But when I was in my younger days, that's one of the reasons why we didn't really enjoy working in Dallas because you were on the card and you're having okay matches and you're featured on television, you're making a check, but you weren't making a difference in the house. You weren't figured in. You weren't able to accomplish what you knew you could if they'd give you the ball, let you run with it. So then we went and exactly reverse again. We went right back from Watts to Fritz where we had plenty of time off and right to Crockett where, holy shit, we're working every day, but at least they're giving us the ball and we run with it and we do our stuff.
Yeah. Well, see, Minneapolis, it was so easy. It was only a handful of guys.
Yeah. And like
Nick was the champion. You had the tag team champions. I managed Nick and the champions. I worked too with Zoom off my angles. And the sixth man with Ray. And Ray, Nick, and I were kind of like the Freebirds because either one of us could work at any time in that match. So it was different.
Me and the Midnight Express were kind of like the Albatross. They were the Freebirds. I was the Albatross. If I had to be one of their partners, it wasn't going to work. I can't imagine what happened to cause you to leave working for Vern Gagne with his suave, debonair charm and political correctness to go to work for Vince.
I wanted to be around somebody with hair. No, I had no problem with Vern. Vern paid off better than anybody in the business, except maybe Vince Sr. at that time, because they had the major town.
Yeah.
And he'd yell and scream out. He was a disciplinarian, but he was okay. He didn't bother me. Every time he started to yell at me, I'd say, you're right. I thought about that the moment it happened, and then he'd yell at you. And then say,
You're right.
Bobby, I was going to tell you the same thing. That same thing.
Yeah.
When you're right. You're right. And he didn't know what to say. But no, what made me leave there was money. I was tired of working 4 or 5 times a night. I was managing Saito, was managing Nick, and I go out and get juice and I run in. I was tired of that. And if you want me to work 4 times, pay me 4 times. They don't. So New York was a good deal. Managed, didn't have to fly every place, didn't have to take bumps or anything. So, and I could see where the business was changing now with Vince, what he was doing and what his TV was going to go. I wanted to be a part of that. I had talked to his dad for years, but he would never use me because he had Ernie Roth, he had Albano, and he had Blassie, and he didn't have room for 4 managers.
Yeah.
And his deal was great because those guys got preliminary money wherever their guys were.
Yeah.
They didn't have to
all
go
they did
down.
was the TV taping once a month, and then the house shows they'd get a check for like a underneath match, and they weren't even there.
And they go to the only house show they go to is the Garden.
The Garden.
That was it.
But when you first went to the WWF, because I went from Louisiana where I was surprised. I remember who the president was, the way we worked the schedule there, and I went to work for Crockett, and we were on the road all the time, so I wasn't keeping up with what Vince was doing. Who did you first go in with in the WWF, and what?
To manage?
How they introduced you?
Vince called me. I was in Denver, and I just saw Minneapolis wasn't going anyplace. And Vince was. So I called Hogan. They called me a couple of times, Hogan wanted me to come, but I didn't want to move. I had a wife and a kid. So I said, I'm in Denver, I'm in the room with Larry Zabisco and Steve Regal, not the Englishman, the other Steve Regal, Snyder's brother-in-law.
Yeah, Indianapolis, Steve Regal. Yeah.
And
Good
I
kid,
said,
by the way.
yeah, good kid. I said, I can't take this anymore. I'm getting out of here. So I called Hogan at home. He said, I'll call you back in 5 minutes. He called me back. He was in Connecticut. He said, call Vince in the morning. So I went home, called Vince. He gave me a starting date, which was the next week, or a week or so after, I forget. So I finished all my bookings. I called Vern, he gave my notes. He told me to come down to the office. I dare you to. I said, fine, have noon. I went to the office, took my wife with me as a witness, had a blade in my pocket. Just, you don't know. Went in the office.
It was bitter at that point.
Went in the office, he shut the door. He leaned against the door, he told Greg, he said, let's throw him out the window. I sat down, put my hand in my pocket. I said, go ahead, you'll make my wife a very wealthy woman. He said, Bobby, what's wrong? I said, I'm working 3 or 4 times a night. I'm getting the same money as I always do. I don't want to work that much. He said, well, you won't have to anymore. No more spot shows. I'll give you $2,500 a week. But some weeks, I don't know where I get it from, but I knew what he'd do. As soon as I burned my bridge in New York,
yeah.
He gave me $2 grand, 15, be back to where it was, saying that's all I got, knowing I couldn't go back up there. I said, no, thank you. I've already made my mind up. I'm going, but I'll finish all my dates out. And I did.
Yeah.
And so Vince called. He said, would you manage Jesse Ventura? I said, sure. But then Jesse got blood clots in his legs, and he couldn't work. In San Diego, he got hurt there or something. So I get to the Garden that night, and Vince said, call me in his office. First time I ever met him. Well, I met him one time when we did the Muhammad Ali thing for the fight with Onoki.
In '76.
Yeah, in Chicago. And he didn't say much to us, because we were Minneapolis guys. But now he introduced himself to me, we talked, and he asked me if I'd mind managing Stud. I said, no, I just wanted to get here. I said, I'd manage Robro if I can get here. So that was it. That's how I started with Stud.
And I saw Ventura, because I hadn't seen him since Memphis. He was another guy I used to drive around. I saw him in the airport when he was coming right back to start doing color, because he had gotten the blood clots.
Yeah.
And he had to take time off, and then he started doing the color. And
that's how I got to do the color, because he went to do Predator.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that when you went to work for Vince, it kind of started a new phase of your career, and that's why I think I'm glad you were where you were and I was where I was, because I wouldn't have had the spot to do what you were doing where you were doing it, but I got the spot to do what you were doing where I was doing it. But no, because Crockett needed a heel color commentator, and I kind of evolved into that spot because you and Jesse had success with it, and I was counteracting what Vince was doing for them. So I got the chance to get experience doing that, because boy, the way that managing in wrestling has gone these days, you need some experience washing windows or sweeping toilets or doing something.
I was asked a question a little while ago by Gabe about, do you think the day of the manager is over? No, it's never over. The day of knowing how to use a manager, or a manager knowing how to be a manager, maybe isn't over. I don't think anybody. I think nowadays they'd rather spend the time having a girl out there with breasts and buttocks rather than a guy out there in a suit. See, with a girl, there's no blow-off. You can't get her in a cage at the end and beat her up and get blood on her. You can't us. You see, there's a blow-off on us. There isn't. You can't touch a woman. You can't beat her.
It's gratifying for the eye right now, but you can't sell tickets with it to past a certain
I don't
extent.
care if they put a brick in their face and hit the guy,
Yeah.
they don't get heat.
And the day of anything can never be over with. It's if everybody all of a sudden just started for no reason sleeping, leaning up against the wall, then the day of the bed would be over with. Because they're not using beds. But it doesn't mean that that it wouldn't have a purpose if you started using them again.
Right. And I did a couple independent shows a couple of years ago, and there was nobody there. And I looked around the dressing room and I watched the matches, and it's very simple. They all do the same thing. None of them dress like wrestlers. They all wear tennis shoes and Funbo shirts with numbers on it, silver chains, earrings, and a headband or something. None of them own trunks or boots. So the people are buying tickets to look like they're watching apartment wrestling or backyard wrestling. They're not seeing wrestlers, they're seeing a bunch of young, fat kids out of shape or little kids.
And there's more gimmicks in the crowd now than there is in the ring.
Oh, it looks like a backstage at West Make a Deal. You know, one guy's an Indian, one guy's dressed like Rin Tin Tin, you know, and they own the company.
Tell them what you told me on the phone when we talked a few weeks ago about why you said it's hard to get heat these days. Do you remember that? You said, look at the world these days.
Oh, you're watching a kidnapping on TV. You see a murder on TV. They got this guy on TV that killed his wife and baby. They're going to hang him. His parents are crying in court. A girl's kidnapped in the mountains. You got a guy over in Iraq they're trying to find now, who's running away from us with a stick. You know, we're chasing the Flintstones over there. You got Saddam Hussein, who, you know why Bush and him, you know what Bush and, you know Saddam Hussein and Pantyhose have in common?
No.
They both irritate Bush. And, you know, they got this guy over there they're trying to find, weapons of mass destruction. And you mean we're going to sell out the Coliseum because Bruce the Barber Beefcake cut Ron Bass's whip in half? This is real stuff happening, man.
It's hard to get heat now by pulling the tights.
Yeah, you pull him in the hair, ref. Hey, the ref, did you pull his hair? I used to say, yeah, we can do.
Well, the referee's a convicted pedophile or something over here. Yeah, you pulled my hair. I don't care.
He'll be back to a thing around his head.
So yeah, the real world has impacted wrestling, but that's what the thing is. It's basic human emotions and it's psychology, and whether it's managers or whether it's heels or babyface. You know, Vince Russo, and I know he's not much more popular with you than he is with me. But Russo said there's no heels and baby faces because we have to be more reality based. Well, there are heels and baby faces because there's good people and there's bad people in the world, and there's nothing more reality based or more simple than that. And people like to see.
Trump plays a heel.
There you have it.
Simon on the singing show plays a heel.
American Idol.
Right.
That people like to have somebody that they can agree with and somebody they can disagree with, and they like to have them engaged in some type of issue, whether it's physical or philosophical, so that they can take a side.
And ESPN's going to that. Have you noticed that now?
Yes.
So what they're doing is they're trying to out-yell each other. They're trying to make it wrestling instead of just disagreeing. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about, Saunders. And
Yeah.
But
There's too many people are trying to make things like wrestling, including wrestling, that don't know anything about wrestling. But it's basic human emotions: love, hate, happiness, sadness. That never goes out of style. And if you learn to play on people's emotions, to entertain them in whatever way, you're successful in wrestling or anything else. And it's just that people try to reinvent the wheel and don't understand that, or people get involved who haven't had the experience as performers, who know how to bring emotions out of people. Like you said, Ray Stevens kicking it up a notch.
like that one guy you just mentioned, Russo.
Oh, jeez.
He wanted to hire actors instead of wrestlers. He said, we can find guys with big bodies and they can do the same thing.
Yeah, teach them.
Now, here's a person with really no business in his life being in the wrestling business. He should be outside of Shea Stadium selling memorabilia hats or something. Should have nothing to do with wrestling. Doesn't know nothing about it. And believe me, you can't know nothing about it unless you've done this and had to feed yourself. There are guys out there. How long have you been in the business? 10 years. How many matches you had? 3.
Yeah.
That don't mean you've been in the business 10 years, and that don't mean you're a worker. Just because you got a current who got a phone number, don't mean you're a worker.
Yeah.
You got to know how to draw money, and you got to live on it. The guys now, I'm a wrestler. What do you work for? I work for a little group up in Idaho. We run once a month. You're not a wrestler unless you feed yourself off this business.
It's not impertinent, and it's not disrespectful to say to somebody who has never been a performer or who doesn't have the experience that you have in any chosen profession, back up, you don't know what you're talking about. Because if you haven't been in front of people to know how crowds react, to know what happens when this takes place, what happens when that takes place, what kind of effect is this going to have, if you've just watched it on television as a bystander, people say, are you Jim Cornette? I say, no, I just play him on television. But you got to live that, and you have to experience that, and that's the meaning of the word experience. Then you're able to kind of manipulate it so that you can know what's going to happen, and you tell other people.
I went to heel 24 hours a day. I told people all the time at the airport what they could do. I was in the O'Hare Airport once. I was in a stall. Right? I'm sitting in a stall. The guy reaches underneath next to me, hands me a piece of paper and a pencil. He said, will you sign this? So I signed it, kept his pen, and wiped my ass with the paper.
Well,
How they do that?
I've been driving a car all my life, and I would not have the first clue of how to work for Ford Motor Company. You know, I think people ought to stick with what they know, and sometimes I think the wrestling business has been invaded by people who think they can perpetrate it because they've watched it on television. They don't understand the basic concept.
And every athlete wants to be an actor, and every actor wants to play baseball or football or wrestling.
Yes. Everybody wants to be something they're not. Did you ever want to be anything other than a phony wrestling manager? Because
I didn't want to be. I didn't. I never asked to be in the business.
Actually, you fell into that. Yeah.
I was carrying jackets and sitting in the ring, and I never thought about it. I thought somewhere down the road I'd wrestle. Maybe I'd ask. I had to get bigger first. Bruce would call me on the phone. I was working at a Ford dealership. When the cars come up the trucks, I was signing them in. I wasn't selling the cars. I was a car jockey. I'd make $62 a month, a week or so. He called me on the phone and said, "You're the new manager of the assistants." Bobby, and hung up on me. My name isn't Bobby, it's Ray. So I called him back. I thought he had the wrong guy. He said, "No, you'll be at TV tomorrow at noon." So I had to skip my lunch and went down to TV, and I was managing the assassins, 2 mask guys. But Joe DeMasso lived in Kansas City, and Bruce didn't want to spend the money to fly him in for 4 interviews, so they put a mask on a mannequin. And they had a mannequin there, and Guy Mitchell and me, and I stood there with the mannequin whispering to him. They didn't want me to talk yet. And Guy Mitchell did the interview. And that was it. That's how I started, but I never asked to be in the business.
Well, actually, I didn't either, because I just kind
I
of
was drafted.
assimilated into it from buying ticket, watching TV when I was a kid.
This happens again, I'm going to Canada.
Well, there you have it. By cracky. You watch TV when you're a kid, and then you buy tickets and you go to the matches, and then you're a fan and you kind of understand what the stuff's supposed to look like, and then you hang around long enough doing odd jobs for very little, if any, compensation, until somebody says, "Hey, we're taking advantage of that kid. We can really do that more often by having him work for us and taking advantage of him by paying him much less to do more work."
He didn't call me on the phone because he was concerned about me making $62 a week. He wanted somebody to run errands for him, and I had to call him twice a day, 10 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. He needed something from the hardware store, I had to go there. He never went out in public, cruising. I had to go do this, had to go do that, and if I came back and couldn't find it, he was horrible, just horrible. A really hard person for me to get along with. Our personality did not work. In the ring, he was like velvet.
Yeah.
As a person, I just didn't like him.
I only met him a couple of times, and really I only worked actually professionally against him once when, in 1982, Indianapolis was all but gone.
He refereed.
And, well, actually, Bruiser had called Jerry Jarrett, or one way or the other, and Jerry was sending talent up to work like Indianapolis and Fort Wayne and maybe Terre Haute, I'm not sure, just a couple of the towns, try to keep it going. And because I was the junior manager in town, Jimmy Hart got the good bookings on Thanksgiving weekend, and I went to Indianapolis and Fort Wayne in miserable below freezing temperature, and Kamala was the main event against Bruiser, and since Kamala's Friday wasn't there, they told me, he said, "Go out and take his stuff." I'm like, "Oh, shit, I'm going to be in the ring with Dick the Bruiser." You know, from the time I'm this big, I'm like, "Oh, my God." And I mean, he didn't really speak to me. It's not that he had ignored me. It's just that, why would he? So I go out, I'm just going to take Kamala's stuff and get out of there. And I'm focusing now on this big, giant, black Ugandan cannibal beast that's in front of me, taking his big face mask and all of his spear and everything. And Bruiser walks up behind me, and as I turn around, I'm this close to Dick the Bruiser, and I'm so scared legitimately because I've only been in business 6 weeks that I forgot to run or back up or anything. And there's this little manager like this just standing there in front of Bruiser. Bruiser goes, "Get out of here, kid." "Yes, sir." Off I go. I can imagine he probably would have been intimidating to work for.
In the ring,
Great talent business-wise.
In the dressing room and every place else, he was fine. But you never get respect where you start anyway.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
He was a 17-year-old kid, carrying jackets and everything, and he saw me and stuff. So that was in his mind the way he could treat me. And
the guy, classic character. There's. To me, the guys in the business these days, yeah, I mean, it's not your fault how you look, it's genetic, but nobody looks like Dick the Bruiser. Nobody looks like Abdullah the Butcher. Nobody looks like...
But those people that did, they destroy right away.
Yes, now it's euthanasia. Right. But nobody looks like that anymore. Everybody looks more normal now. And the guys used to sell tickets just because you looked like a
well, they still look like that. We're just used to them.
Well, maybe not.
Yeah, sure. That's what it is. Like Kamala, I remember he used to do that, right?
Yeah.
And I told him, I says, "I can hear the dinner bell ringing." He said, "Look at that, I can see the missionary dripping off his lips."
Did you ever see the original Kamala video?
Mm.
Jerry Lawler invented Kamala Sugar Bear Harris.
Yeah.
Right? From
He sent me
Mississippi.
an email when I was sick with cancer. A nice gesture of that man.
A great guy, kind-hearted, and with a regular head of hair, just was a normal-looking big guy who was a wrestler and had some success in Alabama, Mississippi, whatever. But Lawler, Idi Amin was hot, right? So Lawler, Ugandan giant Kamala, they came up with somewhere or another. They took him to Jerry Jarrett's house in the backyard in the weeds, and he painted up. Lawler's an artist. He did the paint. They got this African mask. And Michael St. John, an announcer in Nashville, did the voiceover. Kamala, 6'8". Kamala, 365 pounds. Kamala, the Ugandan giant. And out comes Kamala out of the weeds in Jerry Jarrett's backyard, and they're shooting this, and he's got the spear and everything. Kamala coming this week. And Lawler puts him over.
There's times I'm going to mow the lawn.
Yeah. But Lawler puts him over the first week, right flat in the middle of the ring, and all of a sudden, and that never happened. The first week in for a guy comes in and beats Lawler right flat, so all of a sudden he's over. And then he went through every babyface, Steve Keirn, Stan Lane, Terry Taylor, Bobby Fulton, Bill Dundee, up in the pecking order, Dutch Mandel, whichever order it was arranged in at that time. All the way till he got the rematch with Lawler, and then Lawler beat him that time, so he drew 3 months of money out of scratch and then went to work for Watts. And all of a sudden Kamala, and 20 years later, he's still Kamala.
Yeah. And,
But and nobody looks like that, I guess, anymore. When you're a kid, it's always your childhood memories. Everybody can identify with that. People are bigger than life, but
well, when I was a kid starting out, Kowalski was a big guy, 275. Yeah. 50-pound guy was a big guy.
Yeah.
You got kids playing high school ball now. They're 6'7", weigh 3 1/4.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's in. It must be.
Well, I've got a guy, Matt Morgan in OVW. He's almost 7 feet tall, 330 pounds. They brought him up to WWE last year. He didn't really get over. And he was young and inexperienced. He wasn't quite ready. He is now. He's going to be great. But they teamed him up with Big Show and Nathan Jones. The only two bastards in the history of the world that are bigger than this kid. So when he's standing next to him, he's 7 feet tall, 330 pounds. He looked like you and me.
Andre never took a picture of anybody as big as him. There was a basketball player named Manute Bol.
Yes.
And he used to come to the Cap Center in Washington. Nobody's wanted to meet Andre. Vince Senior said, "Don't ever get a picture taken with anybody bigger than you."
He stayed away from Ernie Ladd too, because there was a
Redhead hair 7 foot tall.
Yeah, with the afro. There was a 6-man one time in Louisville. It was Andre, two baby faces against Jerry Lawler, Ernie Ladd, and you remember Plowboy Frazier, I'm sure.
He was 7 feet too.
Close to. He was about 6'10", and the thing is, he should have had a huge run with Andre, but he never really got out of the South. He had his own issues, size-wise.
He came up to me one day. He says, "How come the Giants don't like me?" I said, "How do you know we don't like it?" He said, "He told me so." I said, "Stay away from him."
Yeah, but when you saw there was Ernie and there was Frazier, there was about an inch difference. Ernie was about 6'9",
Yeah.
Frazier was about 6'10", and Andre standing on the other side of the ring, and he had the hair too at the time, but they were pretty close, and they did a bear hug spot. It was like, oh boy. But Andre was always in with Ernie and would never get in with Frazier. And it wasn't because he was worried about him or because of the size. It was just Plowboy Frazier had a way of rubbing people wrong, but what a character. When I first got in business, I'm sitting at Tupelo, Mississippi. And Frazier's next to me on the bench, right? And I mean, he had the mud flaps and the skin tags and everything. It was really, whew. And he had a jar, a glass jar, like a mason jar. And it looked like it had piss in it. It was yellow liquid. He kind of screwed the top, he had it gimmicked a little bit. He splashed some out in his hands, started doing that. And I said, "Frazier, what are you doing?" He said, "I'll buy my cologne by the gallon, neighbor, because I get it cheaper that way."
He probably was pissed.
It would have smelled good.
His are usually chunky.
Yeah. It depends on the corn or not. But he used to sell gimmick jewelry to the guys.
Oh, yeah.
Shoes and boots and anything he could.
We used to call his watches the Uncle Elmer's.
Yeah.
The Uncle Elmer watches.
And Lawler loved having him around because he was entertaining in his own perverse way.
Sure.
Right? So he'd give him different gimmicks. One week, he'd come in as Playboy Frazier, where he'd be tossing out motel keys. He's 6'10", he's 450 pounds, he's got a big stomach, almost bald anyway, even if he didn't shave it, and just ugly jowls. Playboy Frazier, he's in a big pink tuxedo and he's passing out hotel keys. And then he lost a loser leave town when he was a heel one time, so he comes back as the Lone Ranger. And the only disguise is he's wearing the Lone Ranger mask, right? So one night, Jimmy Hart's managing him. And Jimmy Hart always carried 3 bags, 4 canes, 6 top hats on his head, right? He's got all this stuff. Hart comes into, I think, Blytheville, Arkansas. And you go under the bleachers, this little hallway, low hallway thing, right to the locker room door. Hart carries all this stuff through there, barely gets through the thing. Here comes Frazier with his Lone Ranger mask in his bag like that. Somebody says, "I know that's you, Frazier." He turns around, "Oh, shut up," and bam, he walked right head first into the overhang of the bleachers, knocked himself out in this passageway, right? Hart turns around and goes, "Come on, Frazier." Now, it takes everybody in the crew to come out in this narrow hallway because now Frazier's so big, he's like a piece of human cholesterol in this artery that he's clogged. They're pulling him by his feet. He's knocked himself out, and he's stuck, and nobody can get out.
More like a human suppository.
Exactly. So they're trying to expel him from the rectal hallway, and finally they get him pulled in, and he's sitting there, his hands shaking. Anyway, his hands are shaking like, neighbor, I don't know if I can go on tonight or not. If they hadn't been able to Vaseline him, grease him up, and get him out of that hallway, everybody in the locker room would have died because that was the only exit. And he clogged the whole thing. I digress.
Remember McGuire?
Yes, Billy and Betty.
I was in Sedalia, Missouri one night, and they have a spiral staircase going down to the showers, and one got caught. No one could go up, no one could come down, and he just was jammed in there somewhere. But I was down the first floor, I was leaving, but he was jammed.
They used to work Tennessee a lot because Nick loved the idea of the 660-pound twins riding their motorbikes and everything, and they were always working as the managers. And Nick Goulas, you did your tour there also. This was like '74. Nick had like 5 managers. I remember Sam Bass was managing Lawler at the time. J.C. Dykes managing the Infernos. Sir Clements would manage a team. So there was 4 or 5 managers.
Yeah, killed, didn't he? Clemens?
Yes, in the car wreck, yeah. That was in '75, shortly after this. But what he'd do is they would put the McGuire twins against all the managers. So it'd be like 2 against 3, 2 against 4, 2 against 5, or whatever. And one night they'd shoot Sam Bass in the corner, and they'd run and do the splash, and Sam had a little intestinal difficulty anyway, and he's wearing white trunks. Boom, comes the splash, and all of a sudden, big brown stain starts spreading in the seat of his pants. People believed the McGuire's gimmick.
Oh, yeah. They were the shits. I don't guys don't know how to manage either. They want to wear sunglasses. They think that's cool. First of all, I'm Savage. I don't like him wearing glasses because he has great eyes.
Oh, you got to see the
And
intensity.
Jimmy Hart has great eyes. Flair has great eyes. Don't wear sunglasses. But a lot of guys like to wear that, and they all think they got to wear tuxedos, and they all think they got to carry a cane. The reason I never carried anything is because if they take it away from me, they'll kill me with it.
Yeah.
And you can't take bumps with something.
Yeah, you were taking a lot of bumps.
Yeah, you can't get your blade out when you got a cane in your hand and a microphone, and you got.
Well, the reason I had the tennis racket, when I started, I didn't use it. But when I went to Louisiana, everybody been telling me, okay, the fans are different than in Tennessee down there. And I've worked Tennessee and Georgia and those territories, but I've never been to Louisiana. So the first couple of TVs we did for Bill Watts, I didn't have anything. And you can see those old tapes. I was just standing there, just me, which I needed a lot of help at that point anyway. But I saw the fans, and I said, oh, my God, these people are going to flat kill me. And I went home at Christmas time right before we started, back to Nashville, and I watched one of those teen movies that was big in the early 80s, and the rich kid of the group was running around with a badminton racket. I said, hadn't been done. Umbrella's been done, cane's been done, everything's been done, but not a tennis racket. And that'll give me some reach on the marks. And son of a gun, it came in handy. It got over the first year for saving my life in a shooting situation, and I kept using it as a gimmick. But I needed it badly. We were outnumbered.
You always are. I just didn't like to carry some in my hand. And a lot of guys, there'll be a guy hanging, they'll hang a guy's head over the second rope. And he'll want to run, pull down the guy's head. Yeah. I never like to do anything unless it's a finish.
Yeah.
Otherwise it don't mean nothing. Then when I do something at the end, it don't mean nothing. And everybody I managed always said, don't let him get to you, don't let him get to you. I listened to that for a while. I get to thinking, what do they pay to see? They want to see them get to me.
Yeah.
So I make them happy. I had the ability to take bumps and bleed. So I give it to them. I'll give it to them every night, they'll be happy. They like raised upside down every night. But if you can't do it, and it doesn't look good, don't do it.
Well, there's a line, you can't give them so much that they don't want to see anymore, but as long as you're giving them what they want to see and they still want to see it, you're
Sure.
okay. And they used to beat the crap out of me in Tennessee, when I was out 4 or 5 times a night, or being Jimmy Hart's second banana manager in the spot shows or whatever, at wrestling the Battle Royal, and they just saw so much of me. My God, my mother didn't want to see that much of me. But later on, when I got to put in a spot, you take a little poke every now and then that just gets them ready to see you knocked out that much more, and you give them enough. Don't let this guy maybe get to you because you're saving it for that guy, not next year, but just next week.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they say, wait for, don't let so-and-so touch you, don't leave by touch you, because in a year from now, they won't care because they didn't see nothing they wanted to see from you.
Well, you don't let the underneath guy touch you.
Yeah.
The top guy,
Yeah, that you can do, and if you've got enough heat, one punch is not going to take all the heat off of you.
Oh, if you, I worked with Bruiser, and he threw me in the ropes one night, and I hung myself. And so he starts, so I'm starting to get my color. But no, I had to take one hand off, right?
Yeah.
Now the ropes are starting, now the thing's going like a faucet,
Oh.
and the building's getting quiet. He says to me, not enough. Now, people are starting to feel sorry for me.
Yeah, now you're getting sympathy.
So I untied myself and fell down and got up and spit on the people, and then the heat came back.
Yeah.
But I'm a poor old white meat guy trapped.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's
They
it.
don't overdo
It's
it.
like Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, when he took the bump off the cage, which was about as far as any human being could go and live. After that, when he was doing Dude Love, he was telling me in the locker room, he said, I feel like I'm cheating at people. I said, what do you mean? Well, I'm not doing my Cactus Jack bumps, I'm not doing this and that. I said, Cactus, you're making them, I always call him Cactus, Cactus, you're making them happy because they want to see you. And they like Dude Love because it's another thing that you can do, because he got to the point where his bumps were so cringe-inducing that the people that liked him, that genuinely could tell he was a good person and were fans of his, were not excited by what he was doing. They were more like, oh, God, we wish he wouldn't do that anymore. He's going to hurt himself. It was almost getting the wrong...
as long as the checks were coming good, they were liking it.
Yeah.
They like it, maybe.
But he would go so far that the fans would go, oh gosh, boy, he's going to hurt himself. And it was, like you said, it was kind of quieting people down a little bit. So he had to slow it down a little bit, and then he could give it to him.
And that's another fallacy about our business. They always say red makes green. You've heard that?
Yes.
Now, if you and I are tag team partners against, say, Brunzel and Gagne, and I get the juice, and we get $1,000, we come back and the house is better. I get 12. We all get 12. Why did I? I should get more than you.
You're the only one that bled.
Yeah, it makes green for Vernon, not for me. But, well elaborated. I got one for everybody. I would like to everybody. I don't care.
Well, she would do that a lot anyway.
You see, nowadays, with the eggs and everything, you don't want another guy's blood near you.
Well, I got to admit, that's another thing. You did a lot more than me because, and it wasn't that I ever refused to get juice. It's just that a lot of times I was never asked. I don't know what the thinking was, but I was working for Dusty Rhodes, and I only got juice 3 or 4 times while working for him. I actually got juice.
I used to get juice 3 times a day in Bruce's garage.
Well, I actually got juiced more often with myself as booker in Knoxville than I think that I did in the rest of my career when I was on top making real money instead of working for myself going broke. But nobody asked me to. I don't know what it was, except for the thing with Paul Lee and a few choice spots. But then when it happened, it was more shocking on me, whatever. But point being, I don't care whether I'm inexperienced or not. I would rather, if I'm going to take a razor-sharp instrument and cut my own self, I believe I'd rather be the one to do it than have somebody else do it for me, even if they've done it a lot more often. Because they're not going to be as careful as I am.
I know a guy, Louis Martinez.
Arriba.
He was scared to death to do it. So I always wanted to do it for him. So what I do is, I post them. As I post them, I whack them. I bang and post them. But Louis, he slapped your hand on my scary view too.
Yeah.
And one guy, Ivan Kamakov, he was scared of it. And somebody bladed him once. And as he put it in, he went, I went across his eyes and his lips. He's been bleeding since 63. He should be done about Thursday. With 107 pounds.
Yeah, I never understood it just because you're nervous about it, let somebody else do it. And especially, and look at somebody's head. You want the sheep taking a knife to you or a blade to you or any kind of sharp instrument to you? Yeah, no, I'll do it. If
Now
you
we
ask me,
get
I'll
the
do it.
same spade.
Yeah, right
Side,
across.
But at Mustafa, he wear Levi's. Can you get me standing up?
Yeah.
He carried his blade in his left pocket, but he was right-handed. So you go. Bang. Put it back, you go. He could never get his hands out of his pocket. And Wilbur Snyder was terrified of the blade. Say, Wilbur, come on.
I don't ever remember him getting used. Yeah, reason for that.
Birdie one time, dust. No boy, just dust came in. But Wilbur had to do one. So Wilbur get it. We said, okay, well, we hit him. We hit him, he go. Come on, Wilbur. Come on, Wilbur. Then he put his hand in it. Every other side of the building, he go, that's enough, it's enough. That was it. Some guys didn't do it.
I did a thing with Paul E. at TBS. I got cracked because I hadn't done it but a few times, right? I got through all through Watts in Louisiana. I was busted open a number of times the hard way by my own clumsiness and other people just whacking me, but I never actually did it. So Paul hits me with the phone, and I've got the blade ready, right? And it's taped inside my white jacket. I'm wearing the white jacket for the occasion. I'm ready to go, right? And I'm desperately nervous of people seeing me. That's what I was nervous about. I didn't want people to see me. So he whacks me with the phone, I take a big bump, I turn over, real quick I go, and nothing. I didn't know, it's like 60 degrees in the television studio, right? And I'd just been out there for 2 minutes, so I'm cold. So in a panic, I go, 3 more times, then it all comes at the same time. Now that's, when Dusty's been after, I'm juiced, I got the white jacket on, I look like I've been run through a razor blade factory. And I come back and Dusty said, I said, a little juice, kid. I didn't know, I didn't mean to do it. It's just, that's what happened.
You grab your nose, belong to it. And that'll make the pressure.
Well, as Randy Hales in Memphis one time, he was the booker and promoter and head babyface, jack of all trades. He's good at getting color. He drank like 6 beers and took like 8 aspirin, almost bled to death. He was in a puddle. They almost had to carry him out in a bucket.
Well, Blassie bite you, remember? Watch the picture. When Blassie bite you, he'd hold your nose.
Ah.
Oh, yeah. So then you breathe,
There you go.
boom, it comes. I always would do it. If I didn't see it dripping, I just stuck it in more.
Have you heard the Grizzly Smith story? Grizzly Smith and Luke Brown were Kentuckians. I can't remember who they were working with. Probably doesn't matter. Grizzly goes down to get juice. They've got the long hair. He goes down. He does this. And he comes up and he cut his bangs straight off. Right there. This big hole where his long hair was. All of a sudden, he saw nothing.
Well, Ramsey used to wear his blade on this finger, and then he'd wear his blade. Then he'd lift the tape up, and he would do that then. But while he was punching it, he'd be holding you here.
Yeah.
So I went one night, he's working with watch, and I said, Jack, I think you're going to sever watch his head. Whole back of his neck was bleeding. Keep on himself.
The Sheik really wore one on every finger, didn't he? For the people, mostly. For himself, but also for the heat that he had.
He had a straight razor in his trunks. And he would come out of the ring. He was an Arab. He was tough.
Yeah.
He was a mean man.
But he had so much heat. And in most places, people were scared of him to where they wouldn't even come close to
No.
him. He was the first one to bring a snake out. I saw him in Indianapolis in Market Square Arena in '75. He had the snake, and I was like, oh, Jesus. And people just stampeded from ringside.
They believed him.
If you did that now, people in the front row would be going, oh, cute, he's got a snake. But literally the first 6 rows ran, jumping over the row behind them to get away from this guy.
Because his character, you didn't know what he would do with the snake.
Exactly. In Louisville, Johnny Randolph was a DJ for Wacky Radio, the top 40 station. He was the ring announcer in the Gardens, and she came down and worked with Crazy Luke Graham. and Luke Graham, believe it or not, was the babyface in this instance because of some screwy Tennessee stuff they'd done. And Sheik comes in, and Johnny Randolph is not smart. He's a DJ. He's the announcer. They never involved him in anything, and Sheik just tackled him. And the reaction from Randolph was legitimate because he didn't know what was happening or whether he's going to make it out alive or not. And here's the Sheik, who he didn't see very often, on top of him, ripped his shirt off He ran out the back of the Louisville Gardens, turned right, went all the way to 4th Street, all the way to the radio station before he stopped. And they had to get another announcer for the next 2 matches. And everybody in Louisville remembers the DJ that ran 3 blocks to the radio station I had from the Sheik, and it got him over like that.
You believe that man?
Yes, you believed 100%. And Terry Funk had that ability too. You know, you're not quite sure whether Terry was.
Actually thought was nuts. You
What do you mean thought?
Well,
There you have it.
good man. Yeah. But some guys go out there and, like Piper. I never saw another guy that wanted to be Piper. Think of that gimmick.
Yeah.
Nobody ever had a Scottish gimmick. But Piper.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Maybe they want to wear a dress.
I don't know whether anybody could have done it any better.
No.
It was pretty well done.
And he didn't do it. He didn't speak with a brogue. He just wore a collapsed miniskirt. That was it.
He just got over so much whenever somebody, and I think that's a trademark of whenever somebody is over, is if you see what they wore, or what they carried, or what they did, whatever, if you see something that's identified with them, you think of that person. It's like, for Bobby Eaton and Dennis Condrey, a couple of these reunion matches, they've had one of Bobby's friends going out with him when I isn't there. Well, I'll finish this story and then I'll finish this. It really is Sprite, folks. When I isn't there, when I'm not there, they used one of Bobby's friends, and somebody said, "Hey, I didn't carry a tennis racket." I said, "No, because why remind the fans of the guy that isn't here?" Then all you're doing is saying, "Well, you know, by the way, that guy that isn't here, you should be seeing him too." No, concentrate on who is there. I think that's a tribute when people see gimmicks of that nature and they think of that person, and you know that they got it over. Do you guys?
You know who would be a great manager? Shane McMahon.
Yes.
He's got that cocky look about him because he is.
Yeah.
He's got money. He's got power.
Because he does.
He can take bumps. He's young. He looks good.
And balls this big because he's got to prove that it's not. He's not just there because he has the money and the power, etc. He's going to fall off the roof because he wants to show everybody.
Yeah, and Vince too. Those guys, they were perfect managers. That's why I was at Beverly Hills, because that was where money was. Other guys used to say, the blonde from Hollywood, California. We've been to Hollywood as a sewer. But Beverly Hills sounds like there was money.
And there's no blondes.
No.
Everybody named Pedro Morales.
I'm on a plane and the guy says to me, "Where are you from?" I said, "Beverly Hills." He said, "I live there." "Where do you live?" I didn't know a street. Has he ever seen that sign that said Hollywood? He said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm so much behind it." He said, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "I'm sales." He said, "What do you sell?" I said, "I sell a turnbuckle from Backdrop." That was it.
I sent Vince a note after the match he had with Ric Flair on pay-per-view. Because there is Ric Flair channeling Buddy Rogers in some respects, the blonde hair, and there's Vince channeling Buddy Rogers with heel mannerisms, and the combined age in the match was like 111, and they had the best match on the show to me for psychology. And, you know, that's amazing. You know, a 60-year-old billionaire and a 50-year-old guy that's had a broken back 30 years ago can have the best match on the show, but you'll see Bo Peep's hook and the Sheik for a minute. Shut up, Cornette. Quiet. That's another of those phantom breaks where we really didn't go anywhere, but we did. I don't mean to dominate.
No.
The questioning here. I'm just you tickle me, and I love hearing stories. I know my own stories.
I'm enjoying this.
And plus, they've heard me before.
Who's the worst team you ever managed?
Oh, the worst. The worst in concept, Bart Gunn and Bob Holly, the new Midnight Express, for about 6 weeks in the WWF in 1997, because they didn't want to be there. They wanted to be there, but they didn't want to be the new Midnight Express, and nobody else wanted to be either. But the single most mortifying moment I think I ever, the Headhunters, the two 400-pound twins, Davey Boy Smith and Owen Hart actually did not want to, for some reason, cooperate in any way, shape, or form with what these guys did. And I was managing Davey Boy and Owen, but I was out there to get some of it on me too. And these 400-pound guys come out, and Owen just doesn't do it because they got over in their own style, but they weren't really in this picture. Davey Boy, first thing he does is body slam one of them. Okay, so that's out the window. And Owen did something else, it just made him look like a bunch of idiots. I'm going, oh, geez. But Mantor. Does anybody in the room remember Mantor? It was almost I'd been managing for Vince Yokozuna, the WWF champion, and Vader, who was a challenger, and Bulldog and Owen, who, you know, were reputable contenders for anything and top talent, right? And all of a sudden at TV one night, they brought in Mantor, who his name is Mike Halleck, and you're looking at me with a puzzled look that most wrestling fans mirrored. Because who the hell is this guy? No, he was in and out. Believe me, he was through the door, grabbed the Fritos, and he was gone. But he had a giant, almost like a Moose Cholak gimmick, but he had a giant. What was he wore on his head? Was that? It wasn't a bull. He was a Mantor, like a. See, I'm trying. I swear to God, we're trying to explain the
half bull.
But it wasn't a bull. Was it a bison or it was some type of thing? Nobody understood this. The guy was huge. His head was as big as his table. He had a big body. He was a nice guy. This gimmick and people were watching their televisions with the look on your face that you got right now. And about 15 minutes before he goes out, and we've been snickering all day because this guy wore a big moose, and not a moose or a bull or I don't know what it was. They may have invented this animal, but Mantor. And they came to me and said, "You're managing him." Yeah, okay, right. Yeah, we've been joking about this. Like, yeah, no, you're managing him. No, you're managing. I look on the board with Cornette. Oh my God. I couldn't save it. Nothing could have saved it. The guy, like I said, he was a nice guy. If he's watching this, and God bless him if he is, please, Mike, you're a great guy, but Jesus Christ, I'm glad you found another profession, which you must have because I've heard of you in ages.
He's not bad grazing.
He would charge into the turnbuckle and the babyface would move and he'd hit the turnbuckle and stagger back and it'd be one of those suspended in time moments before he turned around. His timing was just all off. And I'm out there going, please God, I've made it 15 years in the business and I've never actually just had shit dripping down my face. If there's some way I can just get a coat of Teflon so that this doesn't stick on me. And thank God it was over with and now nobody like you and all of you remember Mantor. It was pretty abysmal. It gave new meaning to the word putritude. It was highly stinkerific.
Wow.
What's the worst thing you ever did in the business? Either the most embarrassing position you ever got in, something didn't work right, something didn't happen, the worst talent you ever managed, just the point where you said, oh my God, why am I involved in this?
Oh, back when we went down for Joe Blanchard down in San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah.
And Nick's wrestling this guy called the Brown Owl, or something like that.
The Brown Eye?
A little Spanish guy. Should have been. And he was a little Spanish guy, a little Mexican guy, and he had a mask on, and he had his boots about this high with laces around his legs, 40 times.
Yeah.
And Nick's talking to the guy, and Nick says, I want you to come off the ropes and hit me with a tackle at a 45-degree angle. And the guy goes, see? And Nick said, I said, wait a minute. I said, sir, do you know who this man is? No. I said, Nick, the guy don't know your name. Think he knows what a 45-degree angle is? I said, how do you make a comeback? He said, I hit the rope. I said, Nick, you're on your own. Next day, we go to Austin, Texas. And Nick's wrestling the same guy. And every time Nick puts the guy in a hold, it winds up hurting Nick. So I left. I took my chair, folded, put it under the ring, I turned to people, and I went back to the restroom. Joe Blanchard says, Bob, you gotta go back out there. She's ruining my career, Joe. I said, you go out there. He's Bobby. I said, you go out there. So Joe goes out there, he comes back, my 2 minutes, he says, stay here. Some nights it just doesn't work. The worst guys I ever had in the ring were the Vines, because they would always do the same things over and over. They always did.
They did have their set pattern of match.
They did a girls' midget match. Like they'd come back to the corner and they'd grab your arm and they'd pump it like that over the other guy's arm.
Yeah, they were the only team in the business that were doing the Tennessee spots that weren't working in Tennessee.
Yeah.
The arm pump and the tiptoe and
you know, I take him, I drive, because I don't like to drive anybody. I like to come and go when I want. So every 2 years I always had a new Cadillac. I said, guys, stocking caps, blonde hair. You know, they wouldn't wear hats or nothing, and you know, it was embarrassing people to see on the road and stuff. And so then they would just weren't fun to be around or to be in the ring with. Just weren't the kind of guys I wanted to be around. They were
especially if your tag team doesn't particularly get along with each other or doesn't agree with each other on the same page. A lot of times it's kind of miserable.
And they didn't agree with each other.
Yeah, that is not fun for you to be around.
And, you know, I was just, it just wasn't fun, because every match was the same. And they were dangerous. They get in the ring, they'd swerve off, I'd be standing there, they weren't aware of what people were.
They had those broad gestures which look great for heels, but at the same time,
I'm behind you.
Please. Jimmy Hart, when I started, and Dundee, when Bill Dundee was the booker in Memphis, he kind of featured me more because Jerry Lawler, when he was the booker, featured Jimmy Hart more because he had started Hart, and Dundee was on my watch. So it was kind of, I wasn't competition for Jimmy at that point in time because I was new, I didn't know what I was doing, and he was way over. But by the same point, they lumped us together because we were the two managers. So all of a sudden, we're in handicap matches against the baby faces, whatever. I may have told this story before, but I'm going to tell it to Bobby. If you've heard it, please bear with us, or you can come back in about 3.5 minutes. Jimmy loses a match, or his gala loses a match in Memphis where he has to wear a chicken suit for a week. But now, that includes all the shows anywhere around Memphis. So I come into Blytheville, Arkansas again one night, and it's supposed to be me and Jimmy Hart against Coco Ware. And I walk down that hallway and through the thing, and as soon as you open the door, there's a toilet with no door on the stall or anything, just a toilet. And there's Jimmy sitting there on the toilet, sitting there, reading the newspaper in a chicken suit with the web bead, with the bead up on top of his head so that he could see.
Could have been hatching.
And somebody was sitting there hatching an egg. And he wasn't using the toilet as just that most comfortable place to sit in the locker room. So I said, okay, you must have lost that match because I wasn't booked to Memphis because that would have been a good payoff at that time. So I said, okay, Jimmy, we got this match with Coco. You better get dressed. He said, I got to wear the suit. I said, you're going to wrestle in the chicken suit? Well, I got to because of stipulation. He said, now listen. He said, they told me it's rented and I don't want to tear it. So I'll just stay back and I'll throw a couple of kicks and you do most of this because I don't want to rip the suit up. Okay, yeah. So I'm trying my best to, nobody ever taught me how to work. I'm trying my best to get some heat on Coco Ware. And there's Jimmy. Every time he'll kick with the webbed foot, the beak will fall down over his face. So he has to stop and lift the beak up so he can kick again because then he can't see, but then the beak will fall back down again. He's drawn back. He draws back to punch. He hits me with his wing, feathers in my mouth. And finally, when we got through with the thing, he's blowed up, right? I'm dying over here, and he's going, thank God the suit's okay. But every time you would get around Jimmy, he was so peripatetic, and his blood pressure had to be 300 over 250. He was so hyper. The first time that we had to work against each other, he said, I'll tackle you, and we'll roll around. Okay, Jimmy, okay, just whatever you want. He'd tackle you. He was rolling on my face. He was so worked up. I mean, he makes me look almost comatose at that point in time, 20 years ago.
He's hyper.
He's a hyper guy. He would kill you if he was your opponent or your partner. He'd beat you to death just from being amped up.
He's got a lot of energy. He really does. And he works hard at what he does. He
He sleeps 4 hours a night. He'd be up every morning at the radio station plugging, doing publicity. And you know, I love Jimmy. He taught me a lot. He taught me what to do and what not to do. He taught me what to do by helping teach me. He taught me what not to do by seeing some of the things he did. Because he broke almost every bone in his body when he first started managing.
My dad?
Falling down himself. And Laura broke his jaw for him, but he broke almost everything else.
Well, it's a whole totally different business. And where the guys learn to work the most were in cars. That's where you want to do your interviews. That's where you want to work. You talk things over with guys riding. And the dressing room was the fun part of the business. That's where you laughed and you pulled ribs and stuff. The matches, if you had a good match, that was fun. If you had a bad match, it was horrible. But in the car with the beer on the way home, talking with the guys to the next time, that's where you had to be fun.
And after you had a bad match, you actually learned more in the car because if you had a great match, you'd talk about fun stuff in the car, but if you had a bad match, you would beat it to death, figure out why, what was wrong, and what can we not do again to have a stinker like that, all the way back home.
Yeah.
And now the guys are on planes and they can't talk to each other and they don't talk anyway, you know, a lot about that, and you miss that.
Well, you watch the guy go out there, and they don't work anymore, holes or different size, but we used to watch the guy before, so we don't work the arm, they're working the arm, we work the leg or something. The guys don't do that anymore. All guys today, first thing they do when they hit the ring, they jump on the second rope. They hear people yell, they figure, I'm over it.
I got to get taller, too.
The greatest athletes in the world are jockeys.
This past...
You know that?
I'm sorry?
Jockeys. The greatest athletes in the world. You know how hard it is to have to work to stay that short? It's not easy.
This past week, talking about what you said, watching the matches, but also you have to know to inquire, because the OVW championship is going to change hands, because the champion was going to have an injured left arm. One of the heels would attack him before the match, injure his arm. He wouldn't forfeit. He'd go on with the match with a bad arm. He'd get kicked off into the post, boom, the arm, and then blah, blah. First match on the show. What's the heel start doing? Working the guy's left arm. You also should know enough to inquire, to make yourself informed about what's going to go on in the major parts of the show, so that you don't go out and do. Nobody would have used a pencil with a Sheik in the main event in the first match. Elsewise, their pencil had been used twice that night. Once in the first match and once on the guy that used it.
And the other end, the eraser.
Yeah, which is a more brutal end anyway. But a lot of guys, they don't understand. You can't tell the same joke twice in one night for the same crowd, because the second time it falls on its ass. And when it's not the opening comedian, but it's George Carlin or the main event doing it, and they do it the second time and it don't get over, then opening guy doesn't ever get off the opening.
We had this guy in Chicago and around Indianapolis, Moose Cholak. Moose was about 375, about 6'5", and he was really clumsy. And he didn't really care if he hurt you or not. And he wrestled a little bit in college and boxed in the Navy. So he knew just enough to become totally dangerous. And that's why I wanted to take bumps out of the ring, because Moose wouldn't go after you, because he'd have to get back in.
He'd have to crawl down and get back up.
So that's how I just saved myself. But Moose was horrible. He was just...
From Moosehead, Maine.
Right. From south side of Chicago. And he would just demolish you. And he never washed his jeans, and he smelled like an outhouse floor. And he was just horrible. He squashed you in the corner and lay on you. And it was like you were working with a moose. There's nothing you could do with the guy. But, boy, you'd always get him in a position where you could make him miss something. Say, squash me in the corner. He'd come run out, help, boom. He'd hit you, run away. Just hoping to tire him out. No, he'd stand on your ears and stuff. He was just horrible. But a real nice guy, but I mean, just dangerous.
There's a lot of nice guys that just aren't intended for this
profession. Like you'd be twisting the guy's arm, right? Moose would be selling like this.
Oh, yeah.
You know, snatching your shoulder off, slapping you. Moose.
As a matter of fact, one of those, in volume 1 of this monologue that we got going on, we talked about the Bob Luce classics. The only guy that he could find, I guess, on one particular day to interview was Moose Cholak. I guess Moose still lives in Chicago.
He did, yeah. Moose passed away.
God bless him. But it's Bob Luce who couldn't put a coherent sentence together with 3 Webster's dictionaries, and Moose Cholak, who not only had a lisp, but not a very good command of the English language to begin with.
Chicago accent.
And it's Chicago, these, those, and there, and they're trying to do stand-up comedy, between which was funny in its own just really perverted way. It was hilarious to me to watch, and they went on for like 5 or 6 minutes, and the joke that they were telling and the funny story that they were telling was obviously funny to both of them, but try as I might with taking notes and everything, I still couldn't figure it. It's like the Mentor thing. You couldn't really figure it out.
Well, like Moose, the first time the Valiants came in, they interviewed him. What do you think about this younger Valiant coming in now? Well, I don't know what Moose was thinking. He said, well, he's just like his brother. They're just a couple of queers. Moose, you can't say that.
1974.
Yeah, you can't say that, Moose. That's what he thought.
And he's the one that was lisping.
Yeah.
The 375-pound guy with the lisp. Yeah, he comes like me.
Oh, my God. I asked Snyder once, and Bruce, I said, why didn't you turn his heel? They said, Moose turns heel and the office turns heel. They don't want to work with him.
Yeah, exactly.
So they gave him us. But there were a lot of guys like that just were dangerous. And a lot of guys that took cheap shots with you. They didn't have to. They could work when they wanted to. You can tell sometimes.
Yeah.
And Billy Robinson was like that. Billy Robinson, if you wanted to work with you, you could. Sometimes if you didn't have a bad night, you didn't want to, you wouldn't.
Fabulous talent, but he was somewhat opinionated, wasn't he?
Well, he was raised in a different mental wrestling style over in Europe than he is here. And so, I don't know. He was different.
He could go, especially when he first came over to work with Vern. They had some great matches, which I've seen tape of it. And I got to see him actually, when he came through Memphis at one time, he had some bad matches with some guys. He wasn't going to adapt to somebody else's style, was he? They pretty well, they needed to wrestle because he wasn't going to do bullshit.
No, if they didn't do something that he did right, or look good, then he went on and hurt you.
Yeah, which doesn't make for a good match.
No, and you can always hurt somebody if they give you the body.
But he had tremendous matches with Tony Charles. Cause
Oh, sure.
European style. And great matches with Bill Dundee. And Robinson was like 44, probably at the time 45. They'd go 40 minutes, and Dundee, who was in pretty good shape himself at that time, would be worn out, and Robinson wouldn't hardly even be sweating. And this is when he was kind of big. But at the same time, if the other guy didn't do the style right, it wasn't going to be.
Yeah, some guys couldn't adapt, and some guys, if they have a finish, they want a half hour finish. and then I'll do this, do that. If one thing messes up, they have to go back and start over.
Yeah.
Well, I always said, when do you want me in the ring? When all four are in there, I don't need to know what he's going to do and save and this and that. Because it might happen earlier. The same spot. I don't want to jump in the ring 2 minutes gone and the match is over. Just tell me, all four are in there, I'll get in. And the easiest thing to do to the manager is when you want him in the ring, have your guys say, come on!
Yeah.
Well, you know it.
Well, yeah, you're supposed to be communicating.
Sure.
We're on the same team. Come hit my opponent. Yeah,
Sure.
you can tell the guy.
Yeah.
And that's why I'd always, I don't know how guys these days, I hesitate to say the word kids, I don't know how guys these days memorize these 20-minute, I'm going to do this and this and this, and then I'll twist your finger like this, and you fart, and for 20 minutes, I can't, I don't say the same thing twice on promos. Even if I do, if something happens, take breaks, I got to do it again, I can't say exactly what I said before. I can tell you the same story, but the words won't be the same.
And I could never read lines with Dick Ebersol when they were doing for Saturday Night.
Yeah,
And I told Dick I've never been able to do it. He says, no, get the meat of it and do Bobby Heanan. So he was good about that.
Yeah.
And I can't read what is written for me. I have to do my own.
Well, how can somebody write Bobby Heanan for Bobby Heenan?
I'm not a trained actor, and these people are actors, and they're trained for it. To read, you know how they memorize most lines?
Yeah.
Rhythmically and music. And music, you remember songs, but you don't remember lines, so that's how they teach it. But I'm no good. I just got to do my own.
But still, most actors can't take that backwards bump over the top rope.
No.
So I always think the reason why wrestling is a hybrid, it's not really acting, it's reacting. And you can't prepare a script that somebody follows word for word because it has to be the intensity and the passion and the emotion of that person saying or doing whatever they're doing. So tell me the joke you want me to tell, and I'll paraphrase it and tell it the way I want, or the story, or the match, or whatever. But Bobby Heenan has to be Bobby Heenan, Jim Cornette, Ric Flair, whatever. Notice how I put us in that company.
Rick who?
Yeah, that kid from Minnesota. But it becomes bland and homogenized when one person is telling people exactly what to say and do, or one group is telling people exactly what to say and do. I think you ought to kind of monitor it and manipulate it and put the matches together and get the story, but leave the details to the talent.
I never held a title. I never had a belt. Why? Obviously, I didn't look the part, so I shouldn't have had a belt. And there are guys in this business that can't understand why they never got over. Well, they shouldn't have been in that position. Mickey Rooney's a great actor, but you don't want to see him going with the wind.
Yeah, exactly.
He's an actor. He's a different parts, and that's what it is. Like Diamond Dallas Page was a WC champion. Sorry, he's not world champion. Nice guy, but he's not world champion. You know who would have been the greatest world champion? Wahoo.
Yep.
He was an American Indian.
Yep.
He did play football for Oklahoma. He played for the Jets, Denver Broncos, and Miami.
And Houston. He played for Houston.
Yeah,
Also.
and he is an Indian. He is an athlete. He did do what he says. He could draw you money. He could talk, but they didn't trust Wild because he was always bitching about his money. Then pay the man fairly. Tell him what he was going to make him, and then give him a shot at. He'd have been a perfect world champion. The pressure they got on him, it'd have been perfect.
Well, we can't trust him because, geez, if we screw him, he'll leave without driving a belt. Well, don't screw him.
But that's why you have the deposit on the guy.
Yeah.
So, put on 50 grand deposit. He would walk out on that. But just pay him. Tell him this is what you're going to make.
If Wahoo McDaniel felt like he was getting stuck in the ass, he would leave on $5 million. But that's one of the reasons why most of the boys have respect for Wahoo, because he would leave on something if he felt it was that way.
We had an angle we did in Bill Eady and I, he was a superstar in Georgia. We went to an angle with Wahoo where we had him barred from Columbus, Georgia on Wednesdays. So he had to come back as Mr. Columbus for a hood.
Yeah.
Never threw a pound still chopped. He knew it was wrong.
Yeah.
So we had a battle royal one night. So I tie his mask to the top rope in knots, and I leave him there. Now he's running up and down on the roof, yelling for somebody to get the mask off him. He gets mad, he mask off. He took the mask off. It was working for me. Boy! That was gone.
He was in WCW in 1989. No, it was 1990. It was May of 90, the last time they gave us a contract. Me and Bobby and Stan Lane. We came into the town that night, and Wahoo was one of the agents, and he had been at the booking meeting that day because we were somewhere in Georgia. And he came up to us. He said, "Boys, I got good news for you." We said, "What's that?" "They voted to give you another contract. Herd didn't want to, but we all overruled him." And me and Bobby and Stan all three sat through our bags out. God damn it! What?
Mind your own business.
Mind your own business, Wahoo. We wanted to leave. We didn't want to have. We wanted to say we could leave instead of having to turn down money that we're being offered. We wanted to just go. And he said, "Well, that's the first damn time I've ever got anybody a contract. They got mad at it."
He told me he'd do anything for money when he was going to school in Oklahoma. So one day they offered him $100 to drink a quart of motor oil.
I heard
So he
that.
drank it. I said, "What happened?" He said, "Nothing but when I sweat, it used to smell like my truck."
Well, that was a double or nothing because actually the first bet was like $50 that he couldn't run from
Tulsa to the school.
Tulsa to the school, Tahlequah, wherever, and he did 20-something miles or whatever, and after he ran 20-something miles, he said, "Okay, double or nothing, drink a quart of motor oil," and yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to mess with. And Wahoo brought a album one time. We were in Midland, Odessa, St.
He's
Martin,
from there.
Texas. It's where he's from, and it was where he was playing high school football. And there was a big headline: McDaniel scores 18 touchdowns, kills 5 opposing players, or whatever. Big headlines with McDaniel, and then at the bottom, appearing tonight live, so and so plus Elvis Presley, exciting new star. He said, "See, Wahoo McDaniel has been on top longer than Elvis."
Oh, yeah. He was a wonderful guy. I liked him. He was box officer. He'd draw you money.
Yeah.
He ran those chops.
Oh, when he was a heel, he would hit the fans that would try to attack him. He would hit them with the backhand chops, same ones he used in the ring, and knock them over two rows of chairs. When you can hit a fan that's trying to attack you with a chop, and that's your mode of defense, you know that thing is believable.
Oh, he was a tough guy, and he never cried or anything. He was different. I remember one day I found him in Georgia and he had a window smashed out of his car on the side. I said, "What happened?" He said, "I locked my keys in the car." I said, "Don't you have a hidey key?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Where is he?" He said, "In the glove box." I said, "You really did give away Manhattan for beef, didn't you?" But that's the kind of a guy he was, you know. But I've enjoyed the business the time I've been in it. The times I didn't enjoy it, it's mostly the times everybody always said the promoters screwed us. Well, of course, but if you're going to gripe about it, why stay? Go get another job. We knew what it was like. We stayed because we liked it.
As long as it was fun.
Yep.
When it ceased being fun, that's when you gave your notice or moved to another territory
That's it.
or found something else to do, because through all the bullshit and the fans sometimes not being the nicest to you, even though you were trying to elicit that response from them, they went sometimes too far. It was still fun. You still enjoyed being around the boys. You still enjoyed performing, doing what you
And it
did.
felt good if you could create out there. And if you could, remember you pull up to high school or something and a lot of cars, hey, it's going to be good tonight.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to be 7 cars there and 8 people work there. You
Yeah.
know, so you didn't know sometimes. So it's a business you can't explain to anybody. They have to be in it. You try to tell somebody what the business is like, they don't understand.
Well, that was in your book. The quote, it was classic. It was whatever kind of business where you never know how long you're going to be employed, how much you're going to make, where you're going to go, the whole thing.
Yeah, just think if a guy said to you, "I'd like you to be a wrestler, what will I have to do?" Well, you'll have to go wherever I send you. Will I have any days off? No. Will I get paid a lot of money? Probably not. Will I get paid off the house? I worked for a promoter once that told us the house was 10 grand. It was really 8, but he paid you on 6. And we went to take these sharp pieces of razor and stick it in your face whenever we tell you to. And you're going to have to go out through the people and incite riots. Will I get any hospitalization? None at all. Will I get a car to drive? No, you have to drive your own car. Pay your own gas. What about the hotel room? Sit 90 in the room, I don't care. Give me the job. Where do I sign up? I want to do this. And if you're chance of getting herpes, yes. Give me the job. That's the point. Just Bust me open the heart with. Who would do that? What's your name? My name is Ray, but they call me Bobby. I just had one, no, it's not mine. I don't work hard. I haven't seen it for 40 years. I work California in my back. Never been there. I'm booked by a guy who ain't even pronounce his name. I do for a living.
But it's fun, damn it.
It was fun.
It's fun, damn it.
Really fun.
It's the fame and the glory of it all.
Yeah.
The glory of those.
I gave me two sisters once. They were Siamese twins, joined at the hip. I could only date her for 6 months.
How about?
I already had to go back to England so her sister could drive.
Bruce, thank you.
Yeah. They would show the beautiful girls out in Beverly Hills and at the clubs and the actors and stuff. You should see the mules read it, right?
Yes.
Boy, you have to tie them up out front. You can't bring them in a bar.
But at least they're agreeable.
They are. They take you wherever you want to go and they'll pick you up at the airport. They're fine.
Yeah, 'cause my girlfriend now, she's like a faulty hairdryer. She barely blows it all.
Well, that's why they have Walmart.
There you go. Why do I suddenly feel like Bud Abbott?
Well, my wife and I never do a dog style. I sit up in bed and she goes over and plays dead. Think about women. They're the toughest animal on earth. Tell me what other species can bleed for a week and live. Really? They're tough.
We have no finish for this bit, so we will take a small bow.
And we'll be here all week.
So,
Let's do more of these.
well, I think we should.
ROH, it must mean something.
It means we're still getting paid at this
Something
age.
during the here. Something here.
No, I enjoy doing these, and that's why I'm enjoying doing this. I would enjoy
Me too.
sitting here at any time, but I enjoy doing these because not only do they allegedly rumor to me that somebody buys them, but also that we get a chance to put this foolishness and ludicrousness down on record so people won't think that they're lying in 50 years when they try to tell these stories. There's nobody still living.
When we do prime time, and soon always says, God, I want to shoot with this. I wish I could really say, that guy shouldn't be in there. He stinks. But you can't do it, you know. Like, they called it where he was the gorilla position. That's where he would send you to the
Yes.
ring and back.
Right there behind the curtain for the people that don't know. He's right there by the entranceway.
And he said, no go yet. And he's on headset to the truck. Lights, music, okay, go. And when it's time to finish, he'll say to the guy in the mic, the ring announcer, sitting down there, not us, the ring announcer, like Mel Phillips.
Right.
He'd say, give it to him, Mel. Mel would put the pencil in his mouth. That would mean finish, go home. The referee would say, Mel's got the pencil, go home. Sometimes the guys don't finish. Monsoon would get mad. He'd be yelling, go home. Hershey, Park, Pennsylvania. He slams his headset down, he walks to the ring. He puts his hand in the bottom rope and yells, go home! Comes back.
Well, see, now the referees are wired with this wireless IFB communication system, and everybody knows everything, and you can actually pick up instructions if you have the right reception equipment. You can actually pick up instructions that are flying around the building on your own radio. But back like at Memphis, Guy Coffey, Little Short Mr. Coffey, was just with the promotion for many years. Every time they were supposed to go home on Memphis television, Guy Coffey would walk through the door and just kind of walk out and stand there and watch the match.
Well,
right?
Minneapolis.
So finally they did it so long, people got smart. They were watching the match they really liked. They were getting into it. Here comes Mr. Coffey and say, oh, Mr. Coffey, go on back and let him wrestle. There was all kinds of different. Nick, I won't mess up the audio too bad, but Nick Goulas would come out and give him the tie, wave his tie, right? Get the fuck out of there.
You know how that started? Jack Pfeffer. Jack Pfeffer used to always wave the tie. He was at the show once. Yeah, he put his finger up his nose and you rub it on the head of your car.
He kept that fingernail long just for such a booger picking
That's
occasion.
right.
Yeah.
He asked me once, he said, you take good bumps, kid, I'll give you $50 a week. So when we go up to Tony Santos up at Boston. I said, no, thank you. But it was time to go home, and it was hot. He took his tie off. He didn't know what to do, so he reached over to the guy next to him and waved the guy's tie. That's how that started. So who knows?
But, and especially when something's going along and people are tearing their hair out, now the communication thing is better, but it was a little bit better then when it was all on the fly. Did you get Well, at least you got better stories out of it.
We're in Duluth, Minnesota. It's 38 below zero. Back when we was wrestling, Jim Gonzalez, Eric Gonzalez's fifth match. 7 people in the place. They all got big coats on. It's 180 miles back from Minneapolis. 35 below. It's 20 minutes. I said, Nick, go home. He says, Robert, he's got to learn. I said, then take him home and beat him up in your garage. I'm going home. In 2 minutes, if you don't finish him and I are going to finish you, Nick. I'm getting out of here. So Nick went home. We said, but he has to learn. I said, not 180 miles away and 35 below zero weather, you moron.
Now, when Nick was the champion up there, how much did Vern believe in doing hour Broadways? Did they do many?
No, I don't like him either. There's nothing to solve.
Well, every once in a while to say it was done just because then it's the holy grail of things.
I couldn't sit there now and watch Nick. I couldn't.
Dusty and Jimmy Crockett, Flair loved doing hours. And with Flair, and actually I loved watching an hour of Flair and Ricky Steamboat. I can do that any time. But there were some matches that should never be an hour.
I used to watch Briscoe and Funkstein and Dory.
Yeah, Briscoe and Dory, an hour, great. But even for the World Tag Titles, sometimes when we first, even back in the mid-'80s, we still had to go an hour. One in Raleigh, North Carolina, is an hour with Ronnie Garvin and Wahoo McDaniel. In a cold match with no angle. And it's not that anything against Ronnie and Wahoo, but they weren't a regular team. There was very few people in a place, right? And
they hurt.
Yeah, it was cold building too. It was cold to chop. And plus, they're having to chase some of the guys back. Every time somebody's got to take a piss, you got to chase the heel back, or the babyface got to fight the heel back in the locker room so they take a piss or whatever. Hours, a lot of people want to do hours for the sake of doing hours. I know that Samoa Joe and CM Punk have just done that, but they did it and got raves for it. But it's called for when you got 2 guys that can do it. It's fabulous to watch because it's something that shouldn't happen very often. When it does, it's
that's designed to save the belt.
Yes, and it's designed to save the challenger and the belt and everything else.
Nick and I went down to Jackson, Mississippi once and worked with Pork Chop Cash. 1 hour Broadway with him. Came back, Vern said, what'd you do? We said, we went out with Broadway. He said, why didn't you beat the guy? I said, Vern, the guy's name was Huffman, the promoter or something like that.
Gil Culkin, George Gil Culkin.
And I said, Vince, if we'd have beat the guys, there's the top baby face.
Yeah.
We're not there. We're there to put make this guy something. But, that was made because with the champion, you don't beat him. So either he beats you or it's a disqualification, a count out, or an hour Broadway. So when you see Flair do the same things over and over, it's because you may have had 4 or 5 hour Broadways a week, and the people in Seattle won't see what you do in San Francisco, so you could do it in those days.
Ric Flair and Ricky Morton did 8 1-hour Broadways in 1 week one time in the Carolina territory, and they were all good. But now, on the other end of the spectrum, Randy Savage and Lanny Poffo, his brother, when they were running the ICW opposition to Jarrett, Savage was the ICW champion as the heel, and Lanny was the top challenger. Oh, an actual phone call.
I think it's Vern. Hello. Hey, I'm on the air right now. I'm doing a show. I don't care if there's no money there to buy food. I'll call you later, Mom. So, we were saying what?
These women, they eat one day, they turn around the next day, they want to eat
She's got
again.
no teeth. What's he calling for? She got one tooth that hangs down. Every time you take her to a bar, I don't feel like it. But she's great for opening cans. Go ahead.
So Savage and Lanny, they're going an hour for the ICW title in Frankfort, Kentucky. There's about 200 people there. So they decided to shave the time. So actually, their hour Broadway is 41 minutes. But you know how I know? Same way everybody else knew, because there's a clock in that building. It's about this big around that was right over the fucking ring. They rang the bell at 9 o'clock. At 9:40, ding, ding, 1 hour, time limit expired.
No one could probably tough on it.
Well, that is the state capital, so there were certain legislators there that may be able to. But I don't know what else. I don't know.
Any good prank stories, rip stories? I'm sure that could be a whole tape in itself.
Actually, I've told you a lot of mine. I'm just actually I'm setting them up so he can knock them out, because I'm not that entertaining, and you've already done a couple of these on me, so I'm pretty well used up. I'm sorry. Sort of like my ex, I'm pretty well used up.
I used to lock the doors in the airplane bathrooms. You know how to do that?
No.
You know, there's a little nub there. It says vacant or occupied.
Oh, yeah.
Take a nail clipper, pop it up. I used to lock all the bathrooms going to Japan. Japanese are the only race of people that were taught to take off from a boat and crash into another boat. They'll do what they're told. So you watch the bathrooms after lunch. Now, you will see the Japanese people, they're very well-mannered people, and they'll stay on the aisle after lunch. Then you see them after a while, and they'll start teetering. Then you see them on one foot. Then about an hour and 10 minutes into that, they all start to smell like kitty litter. So I'm sitting in the back of the plane, and actually Pedro Morales is up in the front row. He's looking back to see if that bathroom opens. So just then the fasten seatbelt sign goes off. Now we can get up. Now just as he comes, I open the door, I reach in, I get a Kleenex, I shut the door, and I pop it with my nail file. Morales goes, he grabs the knob, and there's nobody there. So he's waiting. He thinks there's someone in there. So he will. Amigo! Amigo! I got puppies! Open the door! And he's happy. Now he's got his gabardine pants on. But he can't say gabardine. So now he says, open the door, I'm going to piss my gabardinos. Oh, yeah. And we had Sarah R. Thomas in the car once, and he had to go to the bathroom real bad. And I said, Lorenzo and I are driving to Chicago. Okay, Art. He says, would you mind if we pull over just a minute and we find a spot? Oh, damn, one-way street. So we went that way 4 or 5 blocks, turned this way. Kept missing the Palmer House in Chicago. So we had to catch his bus to go back to Madison. Finally, about half hour later, we put him in front. Good news, Art. You can go to the bathroom. He says, I've had an accident.
They've had trouble.
But you do that, you guys. You know.
Stan Lane is real paranoid of cops, and it's not that he's got this large criminal background or something. It's just it's like almost like he thinks that they put up a satellite in the sky just to watch the antics of this one guy named Stan Lane. If he's got a picture of a girl and it looks like she might be nearly underage, this is used to before he settled down, he'd throw it away. And he'd drive 3 miles to make it a U-turn. He's just paranoid. Cops going to see me, right? So one night we're trying to run.
Well, his long blonde hair and bubble butt, he can do a lot of time, you know. He's real dark.
We're in Miami. We're trying to find a building, right? We don't usually go there. It's for Crockett. We can't find a thing. He said, I got pissed. I said, well, just stand right there in that dark parking lot. Just pull over and just lean out and piss, and then we'll go find this building, right? So he pulls over, and he turns the dome light off, right? And he opens the door and he pulls his sweatpants down, and he's sitting in the driver's seat with his feet out, pissing with his pants down, with the door open. And he said, now you watch for the cops. And I wait till he gets the good stream going, right? And I said, oh shit, there's a cop. And he jumps back in, he pulls his pants up, and he slams the door, and the only thing he forgot to do was stop pissing. And he's like, God damn it, he gives me the chop. And his pants were wet, and we go into the building, he's drooping and dragging down everything. But the excrement stories are just, they're what makes the world go round.
I used to go to Windsor, Canada from Detroit, and I used to take the midgets. Scott Earl wanted to go with me. And the guys wouldn't take him because they have to drop him off a block away, and they don't be bothered with him. And they can't rent cars and everything, so Scott, I'd take him with me. So I'd make him get in the trunk. And I drive through the tunnel. It goes from Detroit to Windsor, and you have to pay a toll. So I go in the trunk, and they say it's $1. So I press the button, trunk it open. There'd be Scott. He'd have his boots on his trunk. He'd have $1 in his hand. He gives me that $1. He pull the trunk down. We drive through. Everybody come out of the booth. So I say, that's all you gotta do. Just do that. I'll take you for it.
When they were bringing the Mexican minis up, the WWF, and they started a Shotgun Saturday Night Show, which was live from New York. Oh God. And I make no secret, I can't stand New York City. I'm sorry. I can't take the traffic. I get lost. The people, the crowds, the congestion. You can get killed driving around there. I don't like to be downtown New York. But this was shot in downtown New York every Saturday. So we got to go down to New York. And a different place most every time, but also we're doing location shooting. So they're bringing the Mexican minis in, and one of them is, I can't remember what he worked as down there, but they made him Mini Vader because he looked like a little Leon, Mini Vader. He had the outfit. It was hilarious. Leon, I don't think, thought too much of it.
Or this may have been Vader with the crap kicked out of him.
Actually, maybe with odor eaters in his shoes, right? Anyway, so
Orndorff knew about it.
they thought it would be. They said it sounded like just a slapping somebody with a dead fish, where he was kicking him with a flip flops. But anyway, so they thought it'd be funny for me to bring Mini Vader in since I was managing the regular Vader, but since I'm a cheapskate, I meet him at the bus station, all right? And then he's jumping, he has to go to the bathroom, so I take him in, and now he's too short, he can't reach the urinal, so he's having to jump it, right? Okay, so we're commando shooting this thing anyway. We don't have any permits for anything. We got a camera, and I'm dressed with a tennis racket, and like I am now, probably even louder. And here comes this Mexican midget with a little Vader mask, and the people got me thinking, what the hell? Even this New York, it's strange. So I meet him, coming off the bus, and go, come on in. He's like, oh, whatever. Oh, okay, you got to go. So we go in. Well, now the sight gag is lost because I don't know whether they're handicapped urinals or what, if there is such a thing, but even the midget is tall enough to be able to piss into the urinal without having to jump. So the sight gag is lost. I'm still trying to lift him up, but it ain't funny. And now you've never been humiliated, embarrassed, until you've been trying to pick up a fat Mexican midget with a Vader mask so that he can urinate in a urinal at the bus station in New York City with people looking, going, what are you people doing? On camera, yeah. What is this? Is this a new form of porn? Mexican mini golden showers with a tennis racket? What's going on here?
Remember WCW, they bring in 10 midgets. 10 Mexicans with masks.
They bring with 10 of anything.
I said, why don't you just bring in 2 guys? Why don't you just bring in 2 guys and keep 10 masks here?
Yeah.
No, variety the same. Then they had a midget battle royal once. Mexican midget battle royal. And Bishop told me, don't come down on him. Don't make fun of him. He didn't understand the Bobby Heenan character. I got midgets out there dressed like pirates. Baseball players. Bobby Heenan can't say anything. He says, they'll write in. I said, they can't reach the slot. So the only thing I could say is, I didn't say
who's gonna what? The Mexican midget lobbyists are gonna write in complaining?
There's 10 midgets battle royal with masks, and the only thing I come up, I said, to me it looks like a riot at a daycare center. What else are you going to say?
They always wanted to bring in 10 of everything to where it wouldn't mean anything. 10 girls or 10 midgets or 10 guys with masks, and you couldn't tell any of them apart. Instead of focusing on 1 or 2, they'd bring in just clumps of everything at one time and throw it out there. Like,
they didn't know. That's why they're in business now.
The riot at the daycare center. There is a strong Mexican midget lobby, though, that I think would have had.
Who knows if they were midgets? They just maybe Mexican guys. You know, they're only 6'8".
Yeah, but name 4 great Mexican basketball players. In Tennessee, they used to.
Or astronauts.
Well, there you have it. They have a space program. They rent them at the bus station, the lockers. In Tennessee, Nicholas used to always, like I bet you remember, he'd do mixed tag matches where he'd have a regular-sized man, regular-sized woman, a midget man, and a midget woman against a team of equivalents. So Little Darla Dagmar and Diamond Lil and all those girls got work. All those, yeah. See, Honey Girl Page. I'm trying to think. The female midget wrestlers. Okay. But that was sideshow at its best, because where can you find a normal-sized couple and a midget couple fight another normal-sized couple and a midget couple with a referee in the middle, and it's actually legal? Carrie liked that one. You got midgets in your family? Yeah, this was before, and Springer wasn't on television, so you really had to pay to see this.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
Yes.
Sure.
Especially when Baby Cheryl would bite Cowboy Lang in the ass.
Well, I never like to touch them. You never know where they've been.
Or how long they've been there, for that matter.
I used to, remember Little Tokyo?
Yes.
I'd always put his pants up on the top hook. And he always had to do something to help him. They'd bring a beer in the dressing, I'd put the beer in the top of the lockers. Yeah, but hey, they're part of the business too. They're human beings. Yeah, they work hard too.
But damn it, not anymore. When's the last time you saw a girls' midget match? That's bullshit. No, seriously. We're missing out as promoters, the Ring of Honor promotion, the cutting edge promotion in the country, the innovators, the leaders.
My daughter's 26 years old, and about 2 or 3 years ago, she saw some midgets on TV, and it was a wrestling match from a movie or something. and she couldn't stop laughing. She had never seen midget wrestling. There's a whole new audience out there that has never really seen midget wrestling. So, go find them. I mean, you know what causes midgets, don't you?
What's that?
Sex.
Really? How's that?
Having sex, so have a midget.
Oh, no, wait.
You think you buy them or you rent them? We'll be back next week with more like stuff Jim Crockett.
Yeah. Violated the cardinal rule of the straight man. I forgot the punchline. Oh, my God. My mind is numb. My face hurts from laughing. I'll tell you one thing. In addition to no oddities, I'm talking about abnormally large, grotesque people like Abdullah the Butcher, and no girl midgets, and really no guy midgets that are of English or American descent. There's no good blow-off match in wrestling anymore. No good blow-offs to like the Texas Death Match or the cage match, because now everything's been swerved around to where you're never sure that this is the absolute end, the finish, the blow-off, the by-gum final chapter. That's what draws.
I never liked the WCW when they had the champion in there against two other guys, and whoever won the fall would be champion. Oh yeah, I beat you, then you get his belt.
So the champion doesn't need to get beaten to lose the
and
title.
the title don't mean nothing.
Yeah.
And he don't mean nothing. That's why it's sad.
They don't do that in football. They don't say in the NFL, okay, this team is the champions, but they couldn't make it. Their bus broke down, so we're going to play this other team. If we beat them, then we're, it doesn't work.
Like Vernon always was so strict about wrestling has to be real. When's the last time you went to a Yankee game and saw a masked guy in the dugout? And when's the last time you saw that guy on the basketball court and he announced him from parts unknown? When's the last time you saw a thinker grab the umpire, two bears clothesline the guy, take the ball, and give it to the stairs, he runs in the end zone, you turn the amp, and he goes, you don't see it. When's the last time you were in a fight in the bar and you ass-bumped a guy? Or beat over the guy? It don't happen.
Actually, Hacksaw Duggan one night in Alexandria, Louisiana, actually bealed some guy in a Holiday Inn bar all the way out of the bathroom, through the bathroom door into the lobby. But that's Hacksaw and probably never be duplicated. However, wrestling has to have its credibility. It has to have credibility in its own particular little world. Because I always think that our job is to make the incredible credible and the preposterous posterous. So, in its own inane way, wrestling has to have credibility, but you have to start out by the fans have to know where the base is of that inanity, and then you have credibility from there. And
You got it, Michael. Ray, what the hell did you say?
But you see,
Well, you said you gotta watch it. It's a piece of crap you gotta watch.
if you come off the ropes at a 45-degree angle,
See, this has been fun.
it's like us. It's like us. In our own way, we make sense.
Yeah.
If you just follow us for the ride, we make sense eventually. It's just that you got to know where we're coming from to get there.
But we're not done either. We're putting out 2 new magazines, Waffle House Women and Free Market Females. We should be a big hit. But let's do some more of these.
I think we should.
We should.
I think they should pay us even more money. I think everybody should buy 2 copies, one for yourself and one for your friends. And remember, Christmas is coming up, and we need the money.
We get paid for this?
I'm going to clue you on that.
I got a room with something inflatable in it, but it's okay. Better go call Mom and see how she's doing.
Actually, I just enjoy coming to Newark in the wintertime and staying in the shadow of the airport.
I said, what I like about this place, you don't have to be in the road, you can come right from the airport to here.
But yeah.
In the van, you don't have to even go on the highway.
And besides that, you don't even need cable. If there's a terrorist attack, you can just look out the window and you can see live. At home in Louisville at the Cornette estate, I'm safe, because if they don't want to blow up the Kentucky Derby, there's no reason for them to fuck with us. That gold had been in Fort Knox 25 years.
Well,
Any parting words from you?
Buy this one, buy another copy, buy the sequel. We need the employment. Managers are not doing too well as a whole, and the wrestling business is suffering. Ring of honor.
How about a little hype for tomorrow night's great managerial debate between you two?
We got to do a debate? Tell me this. You said we were going to come up and hug each other in the
I'm a
room.
promoter. He puts you on here for 7 hours, makes you use your voice, and books you in a debate.
Yeah.
Why don't you cut my legs off and have me in an ass-kicking contest?
He knows all my material now anyway. You're taking the edge off of this shit.
And I can't speak anymore.
Can't we just
Get there early.
can't we just sign autographs and show them we're still living? It'd be-
My guy living in Florida, you know, saying they have all these hurricanes. The guy calls me to do a radio show. He said, what do you think about the old people here in Florida? I said, well, you only come to Florida for 3 reasons. It's to play golf, go to the beach, or die. And I said, I think the older people over 80, you know, the skinnier ones, you should use them as sandbags. Because they retain some water. They can hold water. And we need them. They don't do anything but get caught in traffic anyway, so just way to help them out. This is fun.
Tap, tap, ding, ding. Thank you,
All right,
folks.
thank you,
Robbie.
Thanks so much, friend. Oh, the old lady.
Oh, Christ.